Sound check test 1 2 1 2 on YouTube 1 2. Sound check 1 2 1 2 test. We good on YouTube? All right, good. Let me get these other ones going and let's jump over to Rumble. You're good. Facebook, and we'll let LinkedIn get caught up. And let's see. We are in. TikTok is live on TikTok. Good morning, TikTok. We are live on Instagram. Good morning. We are active on Facebook. Good morning. We active on Rumble and X. YouTube appears to be working for now. YouTube been giving us trouble. YouTube was giving us trouble last week, but I think it's working right now. And we got titles up. Titles are up everywhere. Let's get this LinkedIn live muted. We are good on Facebook, good on Rumble, good on X, good on YouTube and Instagram. Good morning, those of you over there on TikTok. Topic here today, we got a lot to get to. There's a lot to get to on this topic. Today, we're going to talk about why the middle class is disappearing. I have done this. I remind you all, I have done this presentation before, but as I mentioned it last week, I don't remember what I was talking about, but I mentioned it offhand last week, and a bunch of people said that they would love to hear me talk about it again because a lot of you probably missed it when I did this. I also did a series on my podcast that I call a masterclass, or my masterclass that y'all call a podcast. You can find that on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, and also YouTube, where I talked about why the middle class is going to disappear. Today, I'm going to give you the entire thing again, why the middle class is going to disappear. So any of you who considers yourself to be a middle class earner, or you're living a middle class lifestyle, I'm letting you know here today that there will not be a middle class. The middle class is going to disappear in our lifetimes. I'm talking like right now it's 2025. So let's just say in the next 25 years, before 2050, there will not be a middle class. Okay. I want all of you to understand this. And today what I'm going to do is I'm going to go step by step through this whole thing and explain to you why there will be no middle class. And of course, I'm never going to just leave you hanging. Those of you who don't know my work or don't know me, even if I explain to you that there's a problem or an issue, whether it's societally, big picture, or with something that you are individually doing, I'll never leave you hanging and not tell you how to fix the problem. I'm going to tell you what to do about it at the same time that I'm telling you it's a problem. And I told you there's a substantive amount of material I got to get through here to help you all understand this. When I'm done, I will take questions and comments if you have any. While we're here, before I even get into this, if you're watching me on TikTok, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm also live on YouTube right now. And make sure you follow me on Instagram. My Instagram link and my YouTube link are both in my bio on my profile on TikTok. Now, let me introduce myself for those of you who do not know me and those of you who forgot. My name is Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day. I'm a former 9-year professional athlete. I'm the author of 40 books. I've done 4 TEDx talks. I created this brand and this company called Work on Your Game. Who we help is we work with professionals, high-level professionals in the entrepreneurial space, and those of you who are getting into the entrepreneurial space on systematizing and scaling your business from a 6-figure level to a 7-figure level. So any of you who's in that range, you can find us at workonyourgameuniversity.com or dreuniversity.com. I got that domain name too. We got a lot of domain names, but Work on Your Game University. You can find out more about that in the links in my profile on whichever platform you happen to be consuming me on. So let's get into this topic here today. Why the middle class is disappearing. All of you know what I mean when I say the middle class. Many of you yesterday were saying, when I was asking about this, a lot of people were saying that you occupy the middle class, which makes sense. The middle class does make up the bulk of people in the United States of America. And we know that the middle class we got 3 different classes. You got the lower class, you got the middle class, and you have the upper class. Some people call the upper class the rich. Some people call the lower class the poor. And that's fine. You can call them that. And the middle class is everybody else. All right. Now I'm going to explain to you. I'm just get right into my points, because if I give too much background, I may start stepping on the things I'm going to say anyway. So let's just start from the beginning at the top of the list. Here's the first thing all of you need to understand. The United States government has no money. The United States government does not have money, and I'm going to connect all of this together. Okay, the United States government, as of the last time that I checked, was $35 trillion with a T, $35 trillion in debt. And let's check right now, because there's a website called the usdebtclock.org. If you're not familiar with this website, it's called usdebtclock.org. It's a free website that it keeps a running total of how broke the United States actually is. Actually, the United States is not broke. The United States is in debt. What do you call that when you're in debt? I guess you just call it they're in debt. They're in the red. or they, us, we live here. So the United States national debt is not $35 trillion. Excuse me, I'm wrong. It's actually now $36 trillion. The United States is $36 trillion in debt right now. And the number is continuing to climb. I want y'all to look at this. Y'all can see how fast the number is moving. You see how the number keeps moving? So right now it's 36,524,152,000. And the numbers are going so quick, about 100,000 that I can't even count it. 200,000, 300,000. 400,000. Now it's up to 500,000. And by the time I finish this sentence, it's going to be 153 million instead of 152 million. So did I say 36 trillion, 524 billion, $153 million in debt right now, the United States government. I'm giving you all that baseline to help you understand something. We used to hear politicians always debating about how much money the other political party was spending. Oh, the Republicans came in, they put us more in debt. Or the Democrats came in, they put us more in debt, and they were blaming on each other, right? You would hear them doing that all the time. Now, it still gets talked about, but not nearly as much as it used to be, simply because they are all guilty of the same thing. They all spend more money. And it's not necessarily that spending more money is a bad thing. We spend a lot of our money gets spent on defense. So if you look at where the money is actually going, there are different amounts that are being spent on different things that are necessary. So they actually added this U.S. debt clock actually updates itself. So now they have one called the Doge clock, DOGE clock. And I don't know what exactly this is supposed to be counting because it doesn't explain it, at least not. Oh, it does. So it says Department of Government Efficiency Advisory Commission, the real-time savings objective from reducing government waste, fraud, and abuse in federal government agencies. So allegedly, according to this website, Doge has saved the United States government. This is $135,259 million and counting, according to this website. So there's the Doge clock right there. If y'all want to see this again, the website is called usdebtclock.org. It's a free website. Any of you can follow this and track what's going on with the government, allegedly, according to our spending. The point of all this is, again, the numbers never slow down. The United States government does not have the resources to give money to citizens. The only way the United States government can give you money, first of all, they can recover money. So what Elon and Doge was talking about recently is we might give $5,000 to every American. How many of you will want the $5,000? How many of you want the government to kind of push that money back into the system to save us money later on? And what are you all's thoughts on that? Do you want the money or not? Yes or no? Do you want the $5,000 check from the government because allegedly they have recovered this money and they saved money and they say maybe we should just give it out to the citizens? I want you all to understand while you're answering that question. If the government was to give out $5,000 checks to everybody, then eventually what it's going to do, put more money in circulation. That's going to lead to increased costs in the future. So in the next 6 to 12 months, your costs are going to go up because everybody has $5,000 extra dollars. Whereas on the other hand, if they don't give out the $5,000 and people are going to be upset because now they're thinking about getting it, it can actually lower costs in the long term. The thing is, a lot of people don't have that kind of long-term vision. I am indifferent. They send $5,000, I'll put it to use. But if they don't, I'm okay with that as well. But I know a lot of people want that $5,000. But some people are saying, why don't we just pay down the debt and maybe help the overall economy? And if they really want to do that, they should never even mention the idea of giving people $5,000 because now people want the money. But anyway, the United States government does not have money to give to anybody. They don't have anything to give. So you should be wondering, how is the government able to hand out checks for $5,000 or the checks during the virus a few years ago? Or how can they give out a small business loan? How can they pay the government? How can they pay the employees who work for the government? How can the U.S. government come up with money to do all these things if the government is $36 trillion in debt? That's a great question that you should be asking, and I'm going to answer it. Here's the second point. The biggest tax that all of you pay is not the taxes that you pay right now during tax season. I don't know if we have any accountants or tax professionals who are in here right now. This is your hot season. The biggest tax that people pay is not that. It is not the taxes that you have to pay to the government or the taxes that get taken out of your paycheck, your pay stub every 2 weeks. The biggest tax you pay is called inflation. The biggest tax you pay is called inflation, and everyone pays this tax. See, with the government, if you're not making above a certain amount of money, you might get away with not paying your taxes and they're not really going to come after you because coming after you is not going to help them get much because you ain't got much. But when it comes to the tax of inflation, you cannot avoid it if you spend money. If you buy anything, you are paying the tax of inflation. Any of you who can talk to your grandmother, let's say, for example, if they're still alive, or your grandfather, ask them how much it costs to go to the movies when they were 19 years old. And they're going to tell you it was like $1, maybe even less than that. How much was gas back then? Much cheaper. How much was childcare back then? How much was everything? Everything was cheaper 50 years ago than it is now. Why did everything just start costing more? Is it because the products and services that are being offered these days are just that much better? Are they 100 times better now than they were back then? No, they may be of higher quality. Maybe they're a little bit sturdier. Maybe they might be actually worse, but are they so much better that is commensurate with the increase in the cost of the things? The answer is hell no. No, they're not that much better. So why is the price continue to go up? That's because of the tax that is known as inflation. If you don't understand how this stuff works, again, this is the reason why I told you that the government is so in debt. So what they do is the United States government, anytime that money is needed, if the United States government needs money to do something, they got to pay their staff, or they just need to they need more people to have money so more things can happen. And I'm painting with a generally broad brush here. We can have a 3-hour conversation just on this point alone, but I'm not going to go that long. The United States goes to, the government, the people in charge, so let's just say Congress, they go to this group called the Federal Reserve, that's known as the Federal Reserve Bank. Most of you have heard of it. If you have any American dollars in your pocket, you look at it, and on it, it says Federal Reserve Notes. That's what a dollar is. They go to the Federal Reserve and they ask the Federal Reserve, also known as the Fed, not feds with an S. The feds with an S, that's the FBI. The Fed, being the Federal Reserve Bank, they asked the Federal Reserve Bank to put more money into circulation, to quote unquote print money. That's what they asked the Federal Reserve to do. 3 things you need to understand about the Federal Reserve Bank that a lot of people do not understand. Number one, the Federal Reserve Bank is not federal. It is not actually part of the United States government. Even though your money says Federal Reserve, no, the Federal Reserve is not part of the United States government. That's the first thing you need to understand. Number 2, there are no reserves in the Federal Reserve Bank, meaning they don't have, it's not like they got a vault with a whole bunch of gold or money in it. They don't have that. There are no reserves. It's called the Federal Reserve. There are no reserves. And the last thing you need to understand is that it's not a bank. The Federal Reserve Bank is not a bank. So all three words in the term Federal Reserve Bank, they're lying to you. All right. So this already should have your radar up to help you understand how the fiat money system works in the United States of America. The very organization that is responsible for it is lying to you just in telling you who they are. They're not federal. There are no reserves, and they're not a bank. They're the ones who decide to put money into circulation, aka printing money. Now, why does that matter? The reason this matters is because the United States government is already in debt, which means they have to keep printing money, which means, here's what it means, or they got to try to tax us and get more money from us so that they have something to use. But even all the money they take from us in taxes is not enough to offset the $36 trillion in debt that the United States government is in. So here's the problem. We just got to keep putting more money into circulation. Increase the availability of a thing, the value of it goes down. The value of it goes up. When there's a bunch of them available, the value goes down. Everybody understands. This is the reason why if you have let's say any of you ever collected sports cards, that was a big thing. It's still a big thing to this day, but back in the day it was a big thing. You collect sports cards and you have a rare rookie card of Michael Jordan and it's signed by Michael Jordan. That card is only one of it available. It's a one of one. That card is extremely available. But if there was another card printed and there were 1,000 of them available, then that card is less valuable just because there are 1,000 others or 999 others as opposed to there only being one. Here's the thing when it comes to money in America. Years ago, before I was born, we used to be on what they called the gold standard. And the gold standard in simple terms meant that for every dollar that we had in circulation, there was an equal amount of gold that we actually had. The gold backed the dollar. So the dollar was just a representation of the real value, which was the gold. Dollar is just paper. And to this day, it's still just paper, but it was backed by something real. We got off the gold standard. And there's again, whole conversation you have about why we got off the gold standard, but we are no longer on the gold standard. That means what? That means you looking at that money that you have in your wallet right now, or if you open up the app for your bank account and you see the dollars available, that money is backed by absolutely nothing. The money that you have in your bank account or in your wallet right now is backed by nothing. So you know that Capital One commercial where they say, what's in your wallet? The answer is nothing's in your wallet. All those credit cards, debit cards, and Federal Reserve notes in your wallet are worth absolutely nothing. They are backed by zero. The only thing that makes that dollar valuable, and the only reason that if you walked outside right now and you saw a $20 bill on the ground, you would stop and pick it up, is because of the faith that we as citizens have in the United States as a system and as an entity. And because we have that faith, we believe that the dollar is worth something. That's the reason why you can go to Walgreens and you can buy a candy bar for $3, and the Walgreens associate or the self-checkout counter, more increasingly, is willing to let you have the candy bar in exchange for those $3 because we all as a group, we agree that the $3 that we say we have is actually worth something. And the only reason we believe in that is because of our blind faith in the United States government. If we lose faith in the government, then your dollar becomes completely worthless, like really, really worthless, to where the fact that you have money means nothing. You could be burning your money for heat in your house because the electricity doesn't work anymore because the money doesn't mean anything. Your credit cards, your debit cards, and your bank books as well, because it would mean nothing. The only reason your money matters is because we believe it matters. If we lose faith in the government and there's complete anarchy, then again, it doesn't matter how much money you have. And then it becomes a savage situation. So we have nothing to back up these assets that we call money. You want to learn more about this? There's a documentary and / presentation by this guy named G. Edward Griffin. If you never heard of him, most of you haven't. His name is G. Edward Griffin. Look him up on YouTube. And he has a presentation called The Creature from Jekyll Island. And Jekyll Island is actually a real place in the United States of America. And he explains how the Federal Reserve came to be. And for all you to understand, the Federal Reserve Bank is just a group of people. It's not a bank. It's not an organization. It is an organization, I guess. It's not a bank. It's not federal. There are no reserves. Again, there's nothing solid backing them up. It's just a bunch of people who make decisions, and you don't know their names, and they work hard to keep it that way. You don't know who they are, and they're the ones making the decisions about how money works in the United States of America, and you don't even know who they are. All right, this is the way our system works. Again, it's called The Creature from Jekyll Island. Look it up on YouTube. His presentation, he's given the presentation several times because I've seen different versions of the same presentation. He goes around talking about this. This is years ago he was doing it, but you can find the videos on YouTube. There are plenty of them available. And I'm pretty sure Mr. Griffin wrote books on this subject as well. But you can watch the presentation, get a pretty good idea. Now, he explains how this whole entity called the Fed is screwing the American citizen. Again, you will look it up. And this was probably the recording that I seen. This probably came from the 90s, maybe even the 80s. So imagine what it's like now. All right, that was back then. He's probably not even alive anymore. So this whole situation, the Federal Reserve putting money into circulation, is what we call printing money. So you hear printing money, that's what it means. And again, any of you has a printer in your house, paper is just paper. Or how valuable is paper? Not much. The only thing that makes that dollar, which is just a piece of paper, worth something, is that you believe it's worth something. You lose that belief, it's all over. Okay. So the thing is, as the Federal Reserve keeps putting more money into circulation, here's what actually happens. I'm supposed to be explaining inflation to you. When we put more money into circulation, the value of the dollars that you currently have go down. Why? Because there are more dollars in circulation. So the fact that you have a dollar means less today than it meant 3 weeks ago now than there were then. Which means the money that you're holding, this is the people who talk about finance and investing, they often tell you saving money is the worst thing you should do when you have money, because the value of your dollar is just going down every single day. So if you just hold your money in a bank where they give you very little interest, or you put your money under your mattress, or you keep it in a brown paper bag stuffed away in your closet, or you bury it in your backyard, that money is going to be worth less next year than it is this year, even though you didn't do anything with the money. You just kept it. The value of it just goes down because there's more dollars out there now than there were then. Therefore, your dollar doesn't mean as much. When the circulation of anything increases, the availability of a thing of it decreases. All right, this is just a law of economics. Scarcity makes the value of things go up, and abundance makes the value of things go down. Did y'all see that thing on that OnlyFans girl who slept with 1,000 men in one day? Or how valuable is access to her insides now? Not valuable at all. Why? Because the circulation and the abundance of availability that she allowed for herself makes her insides, her private areas, less valuable because she allowed 1,000 people in what, like 24 hours? That's not very valuable. Now you take a woman who has never let anybody in. That's extremely valuable because of the scarcity of its availability. Everybody understand that the metaphor that I'm giving you here is the same thing when it comes to your money. So when the government prints more money, and now people have money in their pockets, here's what people who own businesses understand. Manufacturers, people who create things and sell things. Oh, wow. Well, the amount of money that I used to charge for a carton of eggs, I have to charge more. Why? Because the dollars that I collect, let's say I charged $5 for a carton of eggs last year, but now more money got put into circulation. The $5 that I collected in exchange for the eggs, you came to my store, you bought my eggs, you gave me $5, I gave you the eggs, even exchange. Now that $5 that I collected from you does not allow me to pay my staff or pay my suppliers or pay my vendors or take care of the chickens who lay the eggs. I can't do it with $5 the way I used to. So I got to raise the price of my eggs. So my eggs are not $5 anymore. Now they're $6. Then next year they're going to be $8. And the year after that, they're going to be $12. And the prices are going to continue to rise. Why? Because the dollar doesn't buy as much as it used to. This is what happens every time the Federal Reserve prints more money. The problem is, because some of you may say, well, why don't we just have the Federal Reserve stop printing money? That's a good question. Here's the answer. The United States government is $36 trillion in debt. So they have no choice but to keep printing money. Again, I'm painting with a very broad brush here. There are some complex ways to fix this problem that I'm not going to go into here. They keep printing money because the government needs the money. And every time they print money, the value of your money goes down. This is the reason why people who are in finance or talking about investing tell you, do not just sit there and hold your money and let it do nothing. You hear a lot of people in finance or people talk about money say, I am always broke. You hear people say that, I'm always broke. And what do they mean by that? They mean every time they get money, they go send the money out to go do some work for them, i.e. they invest in things. So they may go buy multifamily apartment complexes or go buy some houses or go buy some land, or they get invest in some crypto, or they do something to where the money is working for them rather than having the money just sit there. Because at any time you have money and you allow it to just sit there, the money is becoming less and less valuable, and it will buy less things tomorrow than it can buy today. And again, I'm speaking metaphorically. The prices may not go up tomorrow, but you get my point. 10 years from now, if you just hold, you got $1 million you put in the bank. 10 years from now, that $1 million will not buy as much as $1 million buys right now. So it will probably be smart to take that $1 million and invest it into something to where the money can grow and multiply. Because if you sit it in the bank, it's guaranteed what's going to happen is the value of that money will go down. Guaranteed. Everybody understand this? Okay, this is how inflation works. And this is the reason why inflation is the actual tax that you pay. Again, it's not the taxes you pay when you buy something at the grocery store and there's a 6% tax, or the government, if you run a business, the government says, hey, you owe us taxes. Or if you have a job and every time you get paid, you look at your pay stub and you see the government took money out. That's play tax. That's not the real tax. And this whole thing of you see politicians talking about tax the rich and tax billionaires, and Trump is giving tax breaks to rich people. That's not the real tax, ladies and gentlemen. People are arguing about that. That's not even a real game. The real game is the tax you pay every single day. Every time you go to the grocery store, every time you put gas in your car, every time you buy some food from McDonald's, every time you pay for childcare, every time you pay your bills, that's the real tax, because that price is slowly going up and your dollars are slowly doing less. So if you want to complain about taxes, then you need to be thinking about inflation, not about actual taxes, and damn sure not about what tax breaks the government is giving out. It's not going to save anybody. This is what y'all need to understand. No amount of tax break is going to save you from inflation. And again, I'm going to tell you what to do about this in a moment. Moving on. We're talking today about why the middle class is disappearing. So I need y'all to keep all these things in mind as I build up the case to help you understand why the middle class is going away. Wages versus living costs. How many of you listen to this? Put the word me in the chat if you can feel that the living cost of your life has increased more than the amount of money that you're making for your work. Put the word me in the chat if you can see that happening right now in your life. That the cost of living is increasing faster than the amount of money that you're making. And you can kind of see this. It's kind of like you're in a kayak, you're in a boat, and your boat is, you can see that you're about to approach a waterfall where the water is going to throw you and the boat over the edge of the waterfall, and you see it coming. And no matter how hard you paddle, you can't stop the momentum of that boat moving towards the waterfall. This is what we call the squeeze. All right, this is what we call the middle class squeeze. This right here is the part that you probably already understand this, but now I'm giving you the background as to why it's happening. The middle class squeeze happens when the cost of living that you have to pay, because this is the cost of living, this is what you got to pay to be alive. Gas, food, clothing, shelter, taking care of your kids, paying your bills, et cetera, et cetera. Those costs keep going up, but the amount of money that you're making from your job is not going up as fast. Maybe you got a raise, but your raise is not. So it used to be like this, or it may actually used to be like this. Back in the days, let's say my grandparents, they could have an average job that anybody could go get today with no preset skills, and they can make this much money, and their living costs were this much. So that means they always had a little bit of cushion, right, to take care of things. Then it got to the point that, again, they might have got a little bit of a raise, and the cost went here. So the cushion was still there, but it was a smaller cushion. Then it got to the point here where a lot of people are living like this, where this is what we call paycheck to paycheck. All right, this is what's called paycheck to paycheck. Meaning the cost for you to live and the amount of money that you make are about equal. So that means every time you get paid, every single dollar in that paycheck has to go to your living expenses. That's right here. And then if it gets to the point where the costs are higher than how much you're making, this is the point where you're underwater. Or underwater is like you It costs more to live than what you actually have. This is when people started taking out loans, taking out second mortgages on your houses. This is when people start using credit cards to pay off their lifestyle, and you just start racking up credit card debt, and it's hard to get out of it because you're not making enough money to do so. This is when people start drowning right here. All right, everybody understand what I mean by this? And this is what's happening to the middle class. This has always been happening to the middle class, by the way. But now people are starting to feel it a whole lot more. Why are people feeling it a whole lot more? Because the government has gone deeper in debt, and no presidential administration, Democrat nor Republican, has solved this problem. And I'm going to let you know in on a secret right now. None of them is going to solve this problem. I'm going to tell you how you solve the problem as I get further into this conversation. This is not a government save me issue. I want all y'all to understand that. Actually, it is if you go the wrong direction. I'm going to tell you what your options are as I go further in this conversation. But one of the biggest issues for the middle class right now is that many of you, your living costs, and I saw a bunch of you in the comments say this, your living costs are increasing faster than your income is increasing. And this is an issue. This is a huge issue because if it keeps happening, eventually you're going to be completely underwater and you're going to drown. And everybody knows what that means, right? That's a big problem that you don't want to have. So this is one aspect in which I understand, even though I do not agree. Understand the difference. I understand, but I don't agree with the concept of a living wage. All of you heard about this phrase, a living wage? This is what some people are advocating, that no matter what kind of job you have and no matter what skills you have for that job, no matter what value that job has, everyone should be paid a certain baseline amount that will allow you to pay for your food, clothing, shelter. I understand why people have this argument, because they're saying that everyone should be able to take care of themselves, food, clothing, shelter, based on this quote unquote living wage. The challenge that I have with the concept of a living wage is that if you are working you're flipping the burgers at McDonald's, you do not deserve to make $25 an hour, because that's not a $25 an hour job. If the job pays $9 an hour because that's all it's worth, then McDonald's should not be forced to pay you $25 just because your lifestyle costs $25. I'm not responsible for your lifestyle. I'm responsible for hiring you and giving you a job that pays you at a level that makes sense given the value that you bring to the table. If you don't bring $25 worth of value, I'm not giving you $25. I'm giving you $9 because that's what you're worth. You don't want the $9. Okay, you can leave. I'll hire somebody who will take the $9. But this whole concept of the living wage that everyone should get a certain amount just because that's how much their life costs is complete nonsense. That's nonsense. I don't agree with the concept, but I understand where people are coming from when they make the argument. Everybody understand what I'm saying? I remember I was talking to this young lady who was working at the front desk in my building, and she was asking me if I knew anybody who needed to hire somebody because she wanted a better job. And she was saying, yeah, this job working at the front desk, it only pays X number of dollars per hour. I can't remember what the number was. She said it was less than $15. And she said, I need a job that just pays me a little bit more money. And I said, how much money are you trying to make? And she was about to give me a number. And then she said, a living wage. That's what she said, a living wage. Now, I didn't go have this conversation with her, but it led to me thinking about it a little bit more, what I'm saying to you all right here. And her concept was, I understand. She was probably 19, 20. She wanted to make enough money that she could kind of live on her own and probably move out of her family's house, etc. I get it. But at the same time, the job is not responsible for that. If I'm sitting down to interview somebody to come work for me and I say, what are your salary expectations? And they say, well, I want a living wage. I say, okay, do you have living wage skills? Because if you do, then I'll pay you a living wage. If you don't have living wage skills, then I'm not. This is the way the life works, ladies and gentlemen. You got to bring the amount of value to the table that you want. If you don't bring the value to the table, then the job or we'll get to the government in a second. The job or the business or the industry is not responsible for making up the gap of what you lack. If your skills are right here, you get paid right here. If your skills are here, but your lifestyle costs this much, then you need to step your skill up to match what you want your lifestyle to be. That's just what it is. So this whole concept of living wage, again, as I said for the third time, people complain about living wages because they notice the cost of life is rising faster than the money that they're making. But the general idea that someone else is supposed to make up that gap rather than you doing something to make up that gap, I completely disagree with this concept. So your job for all of you is that you must be continually bringing more value to the marketplace in such a way that the amount of returns you get for your work, i.e. the money that you make, your income, your wages, your revenue, etc., it must continue to rise faster than the cost of living is rising, because the cost of living keeps going up. All of you understand this. Again, ask your grandma how much it costs to go to the movies when she was 21. It was a lot less than the cost to go to the movies now. How much it costs to go to the movies now? The tickets are like Let's say you go on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. How much are the tickets to the movies? I don't go to the movies. So how much is a movie ticket if you go to movies right now? Like $20? Let's just say you and your spouse and your one child go to the movies. So let's say it's $20 for each ticket. So that's $60 right there. And then the concession stand, don't even get me started on the concession stand. I worked at a movie theater before. That is highway robbery. So you get some Skittles is $9. You get some popcorn, that's $12. You get a drink, that's another $8. What is that? That's another $30. You already $150 in the hole just to go to the movies. All right. So the whole point being, your grandma used to go to the movies for $5 and everybody ate, had fun, and they went to dinner afterwards. Maybe it costs another $10. The whole point is costs are always going up. Your value must go up just as fast, if not faster, than this. And this is what I want all of you to understand. You cannot be stagnant in today's world. You can't be stagnant. You can't sit there and keep doing the same thing you were doing 5 years ago and get the same ROI you were getting 5 years ago and then say, well, wait a minute. Why could I afford life 5 years ago, but I can't afford life now? Because life is moving forward. Life is advancing. If you're not advancing and life is advancing, then you are losing. It's kind of like, you know how a treadmill works, right? You ever get on a treadmill and you start the treadmill and you just stand still? Okay, what would happen to you? The treadmill is going to throw you off. Life is always moving forward. And you all need to understand that there's no such thing as being neutral. There's no neutrality in life. There's no neutral. What I mean by that is you are either getting better, you're getting worse. You're building or destroying, you're growing or you're dying. If you are trying to be stagnant and trying to maintain the status quo, I remember a guy said this to me about 10 years ago. He was like, Dre, I just want to maintain the status quo. There's no such thing as maintaining the status quo, ladies and gentlemen, because every day you're getting older. Every day you're one day closer to no longer existing. Every day you are using up a bunch of breaths and heartbeats that you cannot get back and time that you will not get back. If life is always moving forward and advancing, which it is, and you're not, then that means by default, you are losing. If the world is moving forward and you're standing still, you're losing. Does everybody understand that? You can't stand still while the world is moving forward. So if you're in a situation where you're making the same now that you were making years ago, but the amount that was enough years ago is not enough now, you need to do something about that. The industry or your job is not responsible for solving that problem. It'd be great if they did, but since they aren't, you already know they aren't. Look at your situation. It is your responsibility to fix this issue. Now, this is the reason why the basis of what I do is personal and professional development to help people. First of all, you have to accept what I'm saying, because there's a bunch of people listening to this who are pushing back on what I'm saying mentally, if not verbally, because you disagree with the concept that you're responsible for your situation. There are a lot of people who think this way, believe it or not. And once you accept that, now we can do something about it. But the first thing is you have to accept that you are responsible for altering the situation. So let's continue. Many people are not keeping up this pace, and this is the squeeze. Okay, I already just told you about this. Many people are not keeping up the pace of increase, so they're starting to get squeezed. This is what I mean by the middle class squeeze. If you're in the middle class right now, you have two options and only two options. May I share these options with you? Option one is that you can find ways. First of all, you have to accept this reality and start finding ways to increase your revenue, income, etc. Whether that means you go get a better job that pays more money, whether you go to your boss's office and you ask for a raise or you negotiate a raise, whether that means you keep your job and you start a side hustle to make some extra money. A lot of people are doing this these days. Or maybe you eventually leave your job because your side hustle becomes a full hustle and you make more money. You start your own business, whatever you can do to increase your income. But you need to be actively engaged in looking for ways to increase your income. That is option number one. Okay. And as you do this, what happens is you start making money that may not be directly tied to how much time you can give, because you never want your time and your money to be completely tethered, because there's only so much time you can give. It's only 24 hours, in a day. And there's only so much talent any individual has. So you want to be able to make money in ways that are not directly connected to how much time you can give. You may still trade time for money, but it shouldn't be 100% of your money. And what you need to be aiming for, just to be clear, is you want to join the upper class. You want to join the upper class. You want to join, quote unquote, the rich. Even though many of you have been socialized to believe that the rich are bad and that rich people only become rich because they take advantage of other people, or only Republicans are rich, or whatever it is that you've been taught to believe, whatever nonsense money mindset you got from your broke friends and your broke family members, you need to undo that bullshit and actually get in the game, because you don't have a choice right now. I'm explaining to you, you do not have a choice. Actually, you do have a choice, but I didn't even tell you what option two is. You don't want option two. I'm going to tell you about it in a second, just in case you want to know. But option one, this is the one you need to be taking. You need to be looking for ways to become rich. whatever you consider to be rich. Let me define it for you so you understand. A lot of people don't know what rich means. Actually, let me ask the question before I define it. Can somebody tell me what it means to be rich? When I say the word rich, or you hear the word rich, or you say rich, what exactly does that mean? Give me your definition of rich. I'll see if anybody here actually knows what it is, because there is a definition for the word rich, but I just want to see if any of you know what it is. And I know there are some people who don't know what it is, but you might think you know what it is. Tell me what rich means. I'm just waiting for some comments. What does it mean to be rich? When you hear that word, what does it mean? And then we're going to talk about what it actually means, so there can be a clear definition so that all of you knows exactly what you need to do to be rich, because we see people throwing this word around all the time, right? So I see Relight says when your money works for you. Solid says someone who has a lot of money. What does that even mean? Core Value said your money is working for you. 360 said residual income that's more than your expenses. Going you're in the right direction. Take that. Talk says wealth to have plenty. Julie says financially stable, not worried about finances, flourishing your desires. Melissa says living comfortably and debt free, not depending on anyone, ability to save at least 20% of your income, extreme excess of hidden money over the cost, excess of money over a cost of living, maintain the place you want to be at, have no debt, create value for others, comfortable. Okay, so all of you are going in the right direction. All of the things that many of you are saying are byproducts of being rich. They are not what actually makes you rich, because many of you are using very relative terms. Comfortable is a relative term. So what's comfortable for you and what's comfortable for me are different. So we can't clearly define rich with that because it's subjective. It changes based on who's talking. Let me give you the definition of what rich actually means. Okay. Write this down if you have a place to take notes. Rich means you have enough money coming in that does not require your physical presence, does not require you to actually work, that takes care of your expenses. And rich is actually not just that in black and white. Rich is a measure of how long, is a measure of time. It's not a measure of money. Rich is a measure of how long can you keep living your current lifestyle without having to do any work for money. That's rich. And rich is defined as not yes or no. It's not a binary, I'm rich or I'm not rich. Rich is a measure of how much time. So you could be 3 weeks rich. You could be 3 years rich. You can be 50 years rich. You understand? Rich is about how long can you keep living the way that you're currently living or the way you want to live. That means all your expenses are paid without you having to actively work for money. That is how you define rich, and it's defined in a time frame, not in a yes or a no. It is not about how much money you have. Also, you don't have to have $1 million to be rich. You can be rich with $100,000, depending on your lifestyle, how much your lifestyle costs, and how much longer you plan on living. You can retire with $100,000 if you live in a place where your monthly expenses, let's say you're 80 years old, you got $100,000 in cash, your monthly expenses are $1,000. You can retire on that because you only expect to live 20 more years. Let's just say you expect to live 20 more years. Let's do the math on that. 12 months in a year. So that means you got to spend $12,000 each year for the next 10 years. 120. Actually, no, you couldn't retire. You're a little bit short. You need a little bit more money. This is why you would take the $100,000 and you would get with an advisor who can invest that money so that your $100,000 grows a little bit, and it'll make sure it covers your expenses so that you can keep living until you pass away and you don't ever have to go work for money ever again. That's how you define rich. So rich is defined by how much time, not how much money. All right, for all of you to understand. Okay, so it's about your lifestyle. Now I see people talking about the lifestyle. So this is why you see a lot of athletes and entertainers, when the money dries up, they go broke. Why do they go broke when the money dries up? Is because they start living a lifestyle that is commensurate with the amount of money they were making. But when the money stops coming in, they don't downgrade their lifestyles. They keep living at the same level that they were before, but they don't have any more money coming in. And a lot of athletes and entertainers do this because the money is coming in so much, so heavily, and so quickly that they don't take time to think about it. This is why you have a lot of financial advisors who try to work with athletes like, yo, slow down. All right, don't buy that car. Don't buy another house. Stop buying that jewelry. Stop wasting money in the club, because you're not going to keep making that money forever. And I know a lot of advisors who work with people in that space because they get reckless. Athletes get very reckless. Entertainers get reckless. Anybody who has a lot of money coming in really quickly tends to get reckless with it. And lifestyle is a big part of this, folks. If you want to live in a place where the costs are extremely high, then your income got to be that high. And if you see your income slowing down, or you just want to keep more of your money, which is a good idea, you could be making a whole bunch of money. It doesn't mean your lifestyle needs to reflect that. And this is a big thing with a lot of the internet has exacerbated this a lot. It happens a lot in the Black community where I come from, where people have resources, financial resources, and they want to live in a way that reflects their resources. So you're living in a place that costs a lot. Like the actual geographical area you live costs a lot. Your house costs a lot. Your cars cost a lot. Your clothes cost a lot. Everything you do just costs a whole lot of money. But you could live a more modest lifestyle and just keep more money, because we all know the thing they say about money. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. Money is the money race that many people are in is not about who generated more revenue, is about who kept more of their money. Because you could generate a ton of revenue and still be broke. Any of you know people who fit that description? There are people out there who earn a lot of money, but they're still broke because their lifestyle costs everything that they make. So you could be earning $1 million a year, but if your lifestyle costs $900,000, you only kept $100K, and that's not even before you paid your taxes. You're in trouble. You could be in the red making $1 million a year, depending on your lifestyle and the way your business or career are set up and what you're spending and who you made yourself financially responsible for. All of these are part of the game. Okay. And nothing that I'm telling you here is financial advice. Please speak to a licensed financial advisor or attorney or somebody like that to give you direct advice of what to do with your life. I'm not an attorney. I only play one on TikTok. Okay. But the whole point here, folks, is rich has nothing to do with how much money you make. That's what I want you all to understand. So when you hear the politicians talking about tax the rich, there are rich people who you don't even know that they're rich. They're standing behind you in line at Starbucks. They're driving a Toyota. They don't have flashy clothes on. They don't live in a big flashy place. And there's nothing about them that tells you that they're rich. But they're more rich than the person standing behind them who got on a bunch of jewelry and Gucci and is driving a Mercedes. But the person in front, in all the modesty, they're more rich than the person standing behind them who looks, quote unquote, rich. So do not be fooled by what you see on TV. And the internet is a big reason for this. Is a lot of people, when they have things, they want to show it off. So they go, and again, this happens a lot in our community. People just want to show off what they have. So they go get everything designer and flashy and things that they can show off that will impress other people. And listen, I'm not against designer things. I buy designer things on certain levels. I buy designer things. I buy designer shoes and belts and all of those things. I do like those things. But at the same time, it's not a race between you and everybody else. And remember, the race in money is not about how much you make, but how much you keep. Again, you can make $100,000 a year and keep more money than somebody who's making $500,000 a year, depending on how you set your situation up. Everybody understand this? Okay, so understand that's what it means to be rich. When you say the word rich, you should be thinking about time, not money. How long can I keep living the way that I'm living if I didn't go to work? For some of you, the answer is you can't. Some of you, like, I need that next paycheck. That's fine if that's the situation that you're in. But as long as you know it, then you could do something about it. But if you don't know it, you can't do anything about it. Some of you, the answer is 10 years. I go 10 years, not work at all for money. And maybe you already have the money saved up. Maybe you have returns coming in from your business or from a product or a service or a system or something you have. Maybe you have some type of investment vehicle set up where you have a certain amount of money coming in. Maybe you're getting dividends from your stocks, whatever it is that you have. Maybe you have investments already and you can sell off some of your investments and there's enough money for you to keep living. Whatever the situation is, you should, again, just understand what rich means so that you know how you can maneuver yourself to be more rich. Okay. And you don't have to make a ton more money to be more rich. You just need to adjust the way you live and think about it differently. So that was option one. Okay. That was just option one. Option one is you can become rich. All right, everybody got that part. Here's option two. I got to make sure I tell you everything. Option two, because there will be no middle class. Option two is you get squeezed and you become poor. You join the lower class. That's the second option. So the first option is you join the upper class by doing everything I just explained. Second option is you join the lower class usually by force, not by choice. I don't think anybody here ever joined the lower class by choice. Most people do it by force. You get forced into the lower class because you cannot afford to be middle class anymore and you haven't become rich. And when you join the lower class, several things happen. First of all, you become dependent on entities outside of yourself, most specifically the United States government. And let me tell you what you don't want. What you don't want is for you and your lifestyle and your family and your kids to be dependent on the United States government for anything, let alone your actual living, your ability to food, clothe, and shelter yourself. You don't want the government responsible for that. You don't want that. You don't want to be on any type of government assisted living situation thing. Nothing. I don't care what it is. You don't want the government involved. Anything you get from the government should be extra, gravy, cool, thanks government, but you didn't need it. Even that $5,000 Elon's talking about, that you don't want to be sitting around waiting for that check. If it doesn't come, you should be good. You don't want to be dependent on the government for anything. You get into that position, then you become dependent on the government. And at that point, they control you. It's not even so much about the fact that you're dependent on the government. Is the fact the government controls you at that point, and they can basically tell you what to do. And what do I mean by that? Well, the government says, hey, there's a virus coming out. You got to walk around with the mask, and you got to go get the jab immediately, and you got to get all 17 booster shots for the jab. And you say, I don't want to wear the mask, and I don't want to get the 17 booster shots for the jab. Well, the government can say, well, listen, Mr. Jones, you were on government assistance for your food, clothing, and shelter. If you don't get those jabs, you're getting your food removed. We're taking all your clothes, and you're kicked out of the shelter that we gave to you because we are providing your lifestyle. You have no choice but to do what they said. See, this is what happens when someone else has control over you. They start dictating other things to you. And this is why you don't want to be in that situation. If you're in a situation where your housing is provided by the government and the government says you can't live in these houses unless you have the jab, or unless you do this, or you do that, or you do this, or you don't say that, and they are controlling whether or not you have a place to live because you have no other options because remember, you're poor. Well, now you're under their thumb. Now they own you. Again, this is not what you want. And those of you who are middle class, listen to this right now. This is not hyperbolic when I'm explaining to you. This is happening in the next 25 years. You are either becoming rich or you are becoming poor. There will be nobody in the middle. All right, it will be rich and there will be poor. Let's continue as to why this is happening. I want to explain to you more why this is happening. Automation and outsourcing. All of you see this in your own lives. There's a Whole Foods in downtown Miami. There's another Whole Foods in South Beach, Miami. I'll tell you the story of both of these Whole Foods. If you go to Whole Foods, you know exactly what I mean. It's different in every town. But downtown Miami, it used to be they had like 2 or 3 self-checkout registers. They had like 20 human-controlled checkout registers where a human would actually scan your groceries and bag your stuff. These days, you go to that same downtown Miami Whole Foods, and if you've been there, you know, there might be 2 human beings working the register lines. 2. There are 30 self-checkout registers. 30 self-checkout registers. And there are 2 humans working the little conveyor belts. That's it. CVS. I went to a CVS. They used to have a bunch of people at the counter taking the orders. Now they're just putting the self-checkout in there. What's the point? This is a form of automation and outsourcing. They're automating and outsourcing the checkout process to computers and replacing human beings. That means there are more human beings who will no longer have jobs because they only had the skill to do this entry-level job. And these jobs are being replaced by computers. Computers don't go on break. Computers don't need healthcare benefits. Computers do not get sick. Computers do not get an attitude with the manager. Computers don't have kids that get sick and they got to miss a day of work. Computers don't have any of that. And computers can work 24 hours a day with no bathroom trips. What would you do if you ran a business? I would replace the humans with computers too. And this is what's happening, folks. And here's what you need to understand about these computers. All of you notice, all of you are using a computer right now. All of you are using right now, if you're on a smartphone, you are using a supercomputer that can do more. That device that you hold in your hand, this device you hold in your hand can do more than the computers that your parents were using in the 80s and the 90s for cheaper. And why does that matter? Here's why it matters. Because computing power, I believe it's called Moore's Law. Somebody fact check me on that. Is it called Moore's Law? Where the computing power is, I don't remember the exact details of the law, but I believe it's called Moore's Law, where computer power is growing exponentially over every number of years. The computing power gets that much better. I believe that's the name of it. Yes, Moore's Law. Thank you, Ra, over there on TikTok. The point being, as good as the computers are today, they're going to get better. The next 25 years are going to get even better. So right now, computers are coming for entry-level jobs. So if you do something like driving Uber or DoorDash, or you work the checkout counter at Walgreens, those are the jobs you're being replaced with. Pretty soon they're going to be replacing the people at the concession stand at the movies. I don't even go to the movies, so maybe this already happened. When you go to the movies, moving forward, it used to be, because I worked at movie theaters when I was like 19. You go to a movie theater, there were the people standing there who would sell you the ticket to the movie, and then there was the concession stand, the people who eat the food and drinks that you eat while you're watching the movie. All of those people are about to be replaced. They're not going to be any humans. If you want to see a movie, you go in there and you say, hey, I want to see Avatar. You're going to push the buttons and you're going to pay for your own ticket and you're never going to talk to a human. Then you're going to walk through and you're going to scan, because you know they have the security guy right there, right? You got to show them that you have a ticket so they can let you into the rest of the situation. That person's not going to be there. They're going to get replaced. You're going to scan the barcode that shows that you have a ticket. Then it'll let you in. The security will let you in. The security system will let you in because it's not going to be a human. Then if you want some food, you're going to go push the buttons just like you do at McDonald's. And one person might be back there bringing you your stuff that you paid for. There will be no human beings. You know, when you work in a movie theater, because I worked at one, there's a bunch of like maintenance people. They walk around sweeping the floor. They got their little dustpan and the broom. They're sweeping up popcorn and all that stuff. Those are going to be robots. Guaranteed. All of these people will no longer have jobs. I was a freshman in college. I worked at this General Cinema movie theater. It was a very big movie theater, big building. It's still there, but I think they got taken over by somebody else. But the building is still there. And there was like 30 of us who worked there, between the box office people, the like security person who would check the tickets, all of us working back at the concession stand, and the maintenance people who swept up the floor. It was like 30 of us working there. And it was a very fun environment. It was like it was a zoo the way we worked. The management was terrible, but it was fun. It was a zoo. None of us will have jobs. None of us would have that job in 2047. It's going to be all robots doing it. They're going to do it better than we did it, more effectively and efficiently than we did it, and it will cost a whole lot less money. And there are no headaches. There's nobody to manage. You got a bunch of robots working for you. You don't need a manager because who are you managing? There's nobody to manage. You know who's going to manage that whole fleet? There's going to be one engineer with an engineering degree. They're going to be managing the whole situation. They're going to be sitting up in the control booth that you don't even see them, and they're going to be managing the whole situation. One person, one human with an engineering degree, and all the rest of you mofos with no specialized skills will be out of a job. That's how it's going to go. That's where it's going, folks. And robots are going to be doing all these jobs. Robots will be doing all this stuff. Y'all seen the robots that work out like a bartender? Now, there are some human jobs that will still be human because you need a human touch. Like somebody may not want to get their hair done by a robot. But there will be people who will. Some people don't mind having a barber that's a robot. Some of you like the personal connection you have with your hairdresser. So when you go to the hairdresser, it used to be 10 chairs, right? 10 hairdressers. In the future, it's going to be like 3 hairdressers and 7 robots. That's what's coming. I'm just giving you all a visual of the future of what's coming. There's a book. The guy's name is Kevin Kelly, and I forgot the name of the book. I think it's called The Inevitable. I believe. Any of you read this book by Kevin Kelly? I read it several years ago. It came out several years ago. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, it's called The Inevitable. I got it right here in my Audible library. It's called The Inevitable. Understanding the 12 technological forces that will shape our future. It's called The Inevitable. All right. This book right here by Kevin Kelly. If y'all know who Kevin Kelly is, he wrote this famous article called 1,000 True Fans. Any of you read that article? 1,000 True Fans? Y'all know about that? This book came out in 2016, but it's a very good book. I will read it again right now. Right now, I'm reading this book called The End of Gender by Deborah So. This is the book I'm reading right now. But anyway, Kevin Kelly wrote this article called 1,000 True Fans, a very important article for any of you who has an audience like fans or you're on social media or something like that. Very important article to read. But let's continue here because I could go forever on all these subjects. I don't want to bump into our Q&A time. So automation and outsourcing, folks, is going to replace jobs. All right, everybody got it? Automation and outsourcing is going to replace jobs. Another thing you need to understand, there are a lot of human jobs right now where Americans have the job and you are going to be replaced because somebody in another country whose cost of living is a lot lower than yours, which means they will command a lot less salary than you. They will do your job and you'll be replaced. That's coming also. And this is already happening. Y'all know this. If you get on the phone with Amazon's customer service, you know you're not talking to somebody in like North Dakota or New York or Tennessee. You know that person is over in Islamabad somewhere or in the Philippines taking your call. All of you know that, right? All right, they're outsourcing those people. Why are they outsourcing them? Because all those people do when the phone rings, they're looking at a computer screen. Whatever you say, they click that button and something comes up on the screen that tells them what to say back to you. And then based on what you say to that, they click that button and they tell you what else to say. Then you say something else, they click that button, they tell you what else. The whole thing is automated, folks. And before long, those people getting fired and it's going to be a computer system doing it, just having a conversation with you. And you won't even know that you're talking to AI. You're going to be talking to a computer and not even know it's a computer. You think you're talking to a person, but you're not. All of this is coming. So right now, the outsourcing is going from Americans to people overseas because they have a lower cost of living. So what you require $25 an hour for, they'll do it for $8 an hour. So that's why you're getting replaced. And then those people who need $8 an hour, they're going to get replaced by people or quote unquote people who need $0 an hour, known as computers. All of this is coming. Now, some of you may say, well, Dre, what's the end game to this? The end game to this is you need to learn how to control these things rather than be competing against them. If you're competing against robots, you're going to lose. Any of you who has a job where you're competing against a robot, you're going to lose. Now, how do you know you have a job where you're competing against a robot? If you're doing a job where you do the same things over and over and over again, and it's something that could be made into a process and documented and taught to someone else, you will be replaced by a robot, period. If you're an Uber driver, you will be replaced by a robot. All right, Google Maps has already mapped out every street in America. What they need a human for. As soon as they teach the robots to drive the cars, this is already happening, by the way. There's an app called Waymo. Any of you who lives in, I think the last place I saw was active was in Phoenix. Any of you in the Phoenix area? In Phoenix, or it might have been Scottsdale. It's either Phoenix or Scottsdale. It's basically an Uber with no human in the car. So you can call your Waymo. The car comes and gets you and takes you where you want to go, and there's no human involved in the entire process except you. You're the human. You're sitting in the back seat of a car with no driver, and it takes you wherever you want to go, and it costs like half as much as Uber. Yes, that's coming. That's coming. Oh, truck drivers. I was talking to my wife about this the other day. Truck drivers. See, a truck driver got to go to the bathroom. Truck drivers have feelings. You got families. Sometimes you want to break. They're about to replace truck drivers with computers. All of this is coming, folks. Anything where you do the same stuff over and over and over again, you're getting replaced. And robots are getting better. Moore's law says robots are getting smarter, which means even if you do a complex job, you're going to get replaced by a robot too. So I'm not putting myself above this situation. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Because the line of work that I'm in is more human touch, is more complex things. If you do something like what I do, what you should be doing is, first of all, documenting as much as you can about yourself, your style, your approach, and what you do and all your stuff. I got a lot of stuff documented over the years. I got 20 years of receipts, written, verbal, audio of all my stuff. What I'm going to do when this becomes available is I'm going to have my own bot, right? I'm going to have my own bot that basically can replace me, and it can do these live streams. I'll have a 2-hour live stream every day. It's going to be my bot talking to you. It's going to sound like me. It's going to look like me. It's going to move like me. It's going to use my mannerisms. It's going to drink water like I'm drinking water. It's going to answer your questions and comments, and it's not going to be me. But the bot's going to be working for me. And the bot's going to do my coaching calls. It's going to record my podcast. It's going to write my articles for me. I'm just going to be controlling the bots. And as soon as I get one bot working, I'm going to create another one. Then I'm going to create another one. I'm going to have a whole fleet of Work on Your Game University, Dre Baldwin bots working for me. And people, I'm going to still charge the same. They're going to do speaking gigs for me. They're going to go do keynotes. They're going to do sales trainings. They're going to coach people. And I'm still going to get paid for the things, but I'm not going to have to do all the work. That's where we're looking. This is going to be like the Jetsons. Y'all remember the Jetsons? You remember the Jetsons, that cartoon from back in the day? All right, that's what we're going to have. It's going to be like the Jetsons. All right, either further advanced. This is all coming, everybody. I'm telling you all this not to scare you, but to equip you. You need to learn how to use these things, again, rather than compete against them. Don't compete. You're not going to win. All right, so moving on. Education and healthcare costs. We all know that the cost of healthcare is going up. Any of you has kids, cost of childcare is not cheap. Childcare is like it's a bill in and of itself. And healthcare costs, all of these things are going up. Now, one good thing about healthcare, for those of you who are open to it, is if instead of sitting with a doctor, you can sit with a computer that can diagnose you and serve you. It may be cheaper. Actually, not it may be. It will be cheaper. If you don't need to talk to a doctor and you're okay dealing with the system or a computer or some AI that can diagnose you and tell you what to do, it's probably going to be more accurate than the doctor anyway. They may not have as good of a bedside manner as the doctor, but this is coming as well. So healthcare costs are continually going up right now. And the healthcare industry is going to fight against automation because it's going to take a whole bunch of people who spent 8 years going to medical school and replace them with a robot. And they're like, yo, I spent 8 years going to medical school. You can't replace me with a robot. Oh, yes, we can. And yes, we will. And that's coming. Any of you work in the medical industry, you know the deal. You know this is coming. All right, this is coming, folks. And it's going to get to a point where you will not have to enter a doctor's office. You won't have to pay your insurance copay. You won't need to get your blood drawn. You won't need an MRI scan or an X-ray. Those things are very expensive and often I've gotten MRIs and X-rays in situations and was completely useless. But anyway, the medical industry is going to face a squeeze. A lot of industries are going to get squeezed. It's going to include people who work there. And again, if somebody is that invested into a career and you're getting replaced by a computer, now this ain't going to happen easy. So you see what's happening with the government pushing back against Elon Musk. Same thing's going to happen in the health industry. When somebody like Elon comes along with some technology that can replace those people who have 8 years in school to get a medical degree, that's going to be something to watch. Trust me. Next, housing affordability. All right. Housing costs a lot more now than they used to. We all know this. We all know this. Housing used to be a lot less than it is now. I remember where I live, South Florida. I came here in 2008. My hometown is Philadelphia, PA. That's where I come from, but I've lived in Miami since 2008. And the type of housing that I had in 2009, 50th floor, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, beautiful $1 million view of the city. It was like $1,700 a month. You know how much that place is right now today? If you want to rent it, probably 10 grand. It was $1,700 in 2009. It's probably 10 grand now. I'm not joking. I'm not exaggerating. 10 grand actually might be cheap. That place $10,000 now. Housing has continually gone up, whether we're talking renting, whether we're talking Airbnb, whether we're talking owning, everything has gone up. Remember the second law of economics, folks. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Okay. There is no such thing as a free lunch. Your costs are going to keep going up because the people who are selling it, their costs are going up. Everybody's cost is going up. So don't think that people are trying to take advantage of you because they raise prices. They have no choice but to raise prices because this is the only way they can survive. And again, I told you all yesterday about the that documentary on Walmart I was watching on YouTube by PBS Frontline. And Walmart squeezes their vendors. That's what they do. Any of you ever worked with Walmart? They're just going to squeeze every penny of equity out of you. That's what they do. They become your biggest client, and then they squeeze all the equity out of you, and you have no choice. They squeeze you. This middle class squeeze I'm talking about, that's exactly what they do. Again, if you ask people at Walmart, they wouldn't characterize it that way, but that's exactly what happens. Next, income inequality. All right, we all know about this. You hear politicians talking about it all the time. I remember Occupy Wall Street from when was that? About 15 years ago, that Occupy Wall Street, where a bunch of people who said they're in the 99%, and then they were complaining about the people in the 1%. And the irony of Occupy Wall Street is that all the people claiming broke, all the people crying broke, were sitting in the middle of the park in New York, complaining about not having money. And they were complaining about all the people who were sitting in their offices working. That was just an ironic thing about Occupy Wall Street. The people complaining about not having money were sitting in the park in the middle of the day instead of actually fucking working. But anyway, let's not even go into that. The gap between the 1% and the 99% is only going to get bigger. All right, this is what y'all got to get. And don't feel sad about this. That's what I'm telling you. Don't be sad about the fact that the gap between the 1% and 99%, it used to be this big. And 30 years ago, 40 years ago, it was this big. 10 years ago, it was this big. Today is this big. And 20 years from now, it's going to be so big that my arms can't even show you the difference. What I'm suggesting that you do is get into the 1%. How much money do you need to make to be in the 1% of income earners in America? Any of you know? What's your guess? And depending on who you ask, because a lot of people have different data sets they look at to look at this. Well, let's see what ChatGPT says. How much income does a person need to earn to be in the top 1% of income earners in America right now? How much do you need to be in the top 1%? I just want to know what people think. It's very interesting, the numbers that people throw out there when I ask this question. All right, so ChatGPT gave me an answer that's pretty close to what I'm thinking that it is, or at least the last time that I looked what I think it is. So Nikki says 500,000. Kevin says the same thing, 500,000. What else y'all think? Anybody else got a different number? How much do you need to earn per year to be in the top 1% of income earners in the United States of America? So the answer is, ChatGPT says this, and this is about the range that I tell people, $407,000 a year, $400,000 a year. Well, Luca Dad said 2.5 million. That's a lot. Troy said 500 to 700. Addis said 120K, or is that 1.2 million? It's about $400,000. $400,000 gets you in the top 1%. Okay, so the 1% is not that far away. All right, if you're earning $100,000 a year, you're not that far away from being in the 1%. And the 1% and the 99% gap is only going to get bigger because most people don't have the drive or the discipline or determination or even the awareness of what we're talking about here, or let alone do anything about it. $400,000 gets you there. And that's for an individual. A household is about $600,000. So a household, assuming that there's multiple people in that household, you need about $600,000 to be in the top 1%. And if you're an individual, you need about $400,000. That'll get you into the top 1%. A lot of people think the top 1% is like these tens of millions of dollars. It's not that much money. Okay. And you don't want to be in the 99%. Now, I already explained that to you, because 99% is going to be a 99% that you don't want to be a part of. It's not going to be any pride in being in 99% in the future. Okay. So, and this number, again, the number that I even gave you gets pushed upward because you have the Elon Musk and you have the Jeff Bezoses their numbers pull that number up because of how much they have. I would say to all of you that if you can get to even $250,000 a year, household total, you're in good shape. You could pretty much live in America moving forward and you'll be good. $250,000 a year. Now, assuming that your lifestyle is not ridiculous. $250,000 a year, you can live in a nice place, in a quiet, safe town. You could probably have 2 cars. You could take care of a couple of kids, a dog, go on vacation. $250,000 a year, you'll be good. Now, that's the way I would look at it. Even $250,000, you'll be straight. $400,000, you'll be even better. And anything bigger than that, Next, a couple more points, then we'll get to questions. The gig economy. Everybody knows about the gig economy, and I already kind of touched on this. This one is disappearing because the stability of work is already not built into the gig economy. So if you're delivering for DoorDash, you already don't have stability of work because it depends on how many orders are coming in. There are no orders coming in, you have no work. If you're driving Uber and nobody's taking rides, then it's going to be a pretty slow day. So the gig economy is already in this space where it's not steady work. Therefore, it's hard to plan your future when you don't know how much money you're going to have coming in. This is the reason why people prefer a steady job than a just dipping in and out. And anybody who feels that instability financially because you don't know where your money is coming from and you're working in the gig economy is about to get less stable than it already is. All right, that's the next thing here. So while you do get the flexibility, the trade-off is you have no stability. Trade-off of flexibility is stability, and trade-off of stability is flexibility. You decide you want to be single and live the bachelor life. You have the flexibility of doing whatever you want, but you also have no stable home life because you ain't got a person there waiting for you. But if you choose the stability of a home life, then what you trade off is the flexibility of being able to do whatever it is you want to do. Everybody understand that metaphorically? Next, more debt with less income. We already talked about this. A lot of people are racking up debt because simply their revenue or income is not keeping up pace with your lifestyle. So therefore, you're using credit cards, you're taking out loans, taking out mortgages, et cetera, to cover your lifestyle, and your income is not keeping up with the situation. This just makes a tougher situation because now as you rack up interest on those loans or credit card debt, and it's impossible to pay it down because you can't pay enough to kind of catch up. And this puts people into this kind of debt spiral that you end up looking like the United States government, right? $36 trillion of government. Hopefully you don't get that deep. But the point is, this causes a lot of stress and strife with a lot of people. And the number one reason that relationships break up is money issues. And if you didn't know that, number one reason people break up, divorces specifically, is stress over money. And this happens not because both people are making so much money they can't decide what to do with it. That's not why they break up. They break up because they are trying to figure out what to do and they can't figure it out. And the stress over money leads to everything else in a relationship falling apart, even if they previously have loved each other. And then eventually you get to that point. Number 10, the government is not here to help you. Okay. The government is not here to help you, even though many politicians claim that they are trying to help you. A lot of politicians get on the internet and claim that they spend the day fighting for you. Nonsense. Most of them are lying. What most of them are doing is running around in Washington, D.C., trying to do things to help themselves that may also help you as a byproduct, but they're really just doing things to protect themselves. And many of the people who are allegedly fighting for you in the government, they're running around Washington, D.C. while they got elected to represent people in Nebraska. What are you doing in Washington, D.C.? You got elected to represent Nebraska. You don't even know what's going on in Nebraska because you ain't there. Or Florida, or Tennessee, or Kentucky, or Ohio, or Texas. Most of them are running around DC doing DC things and have no idea what's happening in the place that they're allegedly fighting for and allegedly representing. So the government is not here to help you. All right. They don't have any money, secondly. And there's not a single thing the government does that they handle effectively or efficiently other than defense. Military/defense, the government does great at that. Everything else, they don't do anything well. This is the reason why we need an Elon to go in there and start knocking some walls down, even if you disagree with the fact that he's there or you didn't vote for him. We need somebody to do something, and he is somebody, and he is going to do something. So the job of the government, ladies and gentlemen, in case any of you didn't know, is to protect your rights. Key term, protect your rights, not give you rights. Government does not grant you rights. Your rights are granted by God. Your higher being grants your rights. The government does not give you rights. All they do is protect your rights, and all they actually do, aside from that, is whatever we tell them to do. That's the reason why you have a democratic system. The United States is a constitutional republic, but we have a democratic system in how we make decisions. And democratic system is based on what we say, majority rules, voting. The government is not the boss. We are the boss, and they are the employees. They work for us. So the government's job is to protect your rights and otherwise stay the hell out of your way. And this is the reason why you don't want to become part of 99%, because now you're giving the government a responsibility over you that they should never have in the first place, which is taking care of your food, clothing, and shelter. Again, you don't want to be part of 99% in the future. Right now, it might be cool to be part of 99%. It was when they had to Occupy Wall Street. You had all those losers sitting in the park, not working, while complaining about people who were working. In the future, you won't want to be one of them, because you might be living in that park, not just hanging out there. You get it? All right. Next to last point. If your skills and value do not increase faster than costs rise, you will lose. I already explained this to you. If the cost of living, if your income is right here and the cost of living is like this, and it keeps going up like this, and your income is staying stagnant or is not going up fast enough, and eventually the cost of living starts surpassing your income, this is when you get into trouble. And most of us humans, we're not fish. We can't breathe underwater. You can't breathe underwater. So once you get underwater, there's an issue. All right. You don't want to be underwater for too long. Okay. So you want to look for ways to increase your returns, whether that's get a raise at your job. You should try to get a raise at your job if you're worth it. Have a side hustle, start another business on the side, get some investments going, whatever you can do to be bringing in more money without having to do more work, at least at some point. You want to put yourself in that position. And the last point, the end game is we're going to have a barbell society. So right now we have a bell curve. Y'all know what a bell curve is? There's a few people on this end, then a bunch of people in the middle, and then a few people at that end. That's the way income looks in America right now. You got the rich people on this end, a few of them. You got the really poor people down here, there's a few of them, and everybody else is in the middle. That's the bell curve. That's the way it is now. The future is going to look like a barbell. You know what a barbell is? Like if somebody's doing squats or deadlifts or bench presses, that's a barbell. What's a barbell look like? There's a whole bunch over here on this side. There's a whole bunch over here on this side, and it's this thin little bar in the middle. And that's the way life is going to be. There's going to be a whole bunch of rich people over here, a whole bunch of poor people down here, and there's only going to be a handful of people in the middle. There's really not going to be a middle class. It's going to be so small that you can't even identify it. It's going to be rich people and poor people. As they say, have nots and have yachts. Yachts like the boats. That's all it's going to be. You're either going to be rich or you're going to be poor. It's going to be a binary. And good news is, ladies and gentlemen, you get to decide which group you want to be a part of. That's the good news about all of this. Even if you never even thought about being rich, even if you never considered rich, you never considered yourself rich, you don't come from rich stock, or you've been taught that being rich is somehow a negative thing. First thing you need to do is undo that poor money mindset. That's just a poor mindset that you inherited from somebody who was probably poor. Mentally, they were poor, at least, if not financially. You need to undo that mindset first. Fix that, then you're in a position to potentially make yourself rich. But as long as you have this mind trash, like as we say, that tells you that being rich or trying to be rich is somehow negative, or that you're somehow using or taking advantage of other people because you just happen to have money. As long as you think that way, you are quickly on your way to the 99%. All right, you're going to get there without even trying. I would suggest you do something about that. You don't want, I've told you 30 times already today, you don't want to join the 99%. And I've told you exactly why you don't want to join the 99%. It's not the place that you want to be. All that being said, let's get to the comments here. D Remedy on YouTube, what's going on? Good morning to you. It looks like YouTube is working pretty smoothly here today. YouTube is giving us a lot of trouble last week. All right, TikTok coming to you. Whatever you got in the comments, go ahead and post it. I can't see every comment. I try to see as many as I can, but I'm looking at them and will take as many as I can catch here. And by the way, if you're watching me on TikTok, follow me on Instagram. My Instagram link is in my profile. And there's also a link to my YouTube channel. Subscribe to my YouTube channel because I've been kicked off TikTok, suspended multiple times here over the last 6 or 7 months. So make sure you're following me in more than one place. So in case I get kicked off of TikTok, I'm still going to be going live. I just won't be on TikTok. I'll be on YouTube. And the replays to every live that I ever did are all on YouTube. So anytime I tell you I've done something before, it's on my YouTube channel. And the link to my YouTube is right there in my profile here on TikTok. So let's see what we got. User 547 says, once robots take over, everyone will need a universal income. Doesn't mean there can't be level. Well, who was preaching the universal income? Was that Vivek? I think that was Ramaswamy who was talking about that universal income. Was it him that was saying it? Or was it no, I think it was that Asian guy from many years ago. I can't remember his name. Golden Girl said Mickey D's made $6.3 billion. Should they pay $25 an hour per hour? Should they pay more than $9 per hour? Well, how much they made last year is irrelevant because, first of all, how much they made is not necessarily how much they kept. $6.3 billion that they earned in revenue does not count. You're not counting their manufacturing costs, their real estate costs, their payroll costs, their tax costs. You're not counting how much that money has to go right back out. So that's one thing. And just because they made $6.3 billion does not mean that they owe somebody $25 an hour. This is a false frame that you're presenting here. Just because someone made X amount of dollars does not mean that someone else is owed a piece of that money just because you got it does not mean that I owe it to you. They just said in the 70s, $20 can take a family of 4. Yeah, that's right. Rocket Providence says, unless Elon eliminates your job. Yeah, Elon might eliminate somebody's job. Might happen. That might happen. Okay, so I saw you all's comments about rich and wealthy is another level past rich. And that's when you have levels of rich, meaning not only would you be rich, but also your kids could be rich and their kids could be rich. And that's all part of a system that you had to set up. And all these things that many of you said when I asked the question about being rich, these are, again, byproducts of being rich. You make yourself rich, and all these things you all are saying you can do. But you have to get rich first, then you can do those things. Or do them while you're becoming rich. So James said, well, you can make enough money to leave for generations to come. Well, also so that the money continues to grow and that the next generations can't mess it up. Those are all things you got to think about. So look at somebody like Sam Walton, the Walton family. He left enough money for the future generations, but he also set it up that they can't screw it up. Because what happens, a lot of people don't notice, is that when a family becomes notably rich, usually within 3 generations, they lose all the money. So there's the person who started it. Let's say that's the man who started the business that made the family rich. Then his kids and their kids, by the time it gets to the grandkids, they blow the whole thing. They blow all the money. And that often happens because what happens is the person who started the dynasty does not set it up in such a way that it's impossible for the future generations to mess it up, which means you can't just leave them a bag full of money and say, do what you want, because they're usually going to screw it up. Especially kids who are born without having to develop the work ethic that the main guy who started it had to have to get started, because he wasn't rich. But if you're born rich, then you may not value it as much, at least from what I see from the outside looking in. I was not born rich. Midnight Passion said, I'm 5 years rich. Well, that's good. And if you have more than 5 years to live, then you just want to keep increasing that number. That's the whole point. I have not seen that documentary, Ray. What is it about? They just said, I'm poverty level income, but lifetime rich. Okay, so you have time, just not a lot of income. Is that what you're saying? Julie said, doesn't that explain your life's comfort level that you said was not a rich definition? Well, I gave you a definition of rich. It's a clear definition. It's measured in time. It's not measured in comfort. It's measured in time. So if you can keep living your lifestyle without having to work, then your richness is based in an amount of time, a month, a week, a year, etc. But comfort level has nothing to do with it. Comfort is a byproduct of it, or it can be, if you want it to be, a byproduct of being rich. But there are people who are rich who are not comfortable because they intentionally keep themselves moving because they just want to do stuff. Julie said lifestyle equals comfort. Not necessarily. No. Some people's lifestyle is very uncomfortable. Lifestyle means the cost of living the way that you want to live. So when I say rich means how long can you keep living your current lifestyle, it means the way that you want to live. So how much does your house cost? How much is your car? How much is your alimony payments? How much is your child support? How much is your food? How much are all your bills put together? That's lifestyle. Lifestyle is just how much everything costs of everything you have all added up. That's lifestyle. And it does not necessarily have to be comfortable. Some people's lifestyles are extremely uncomfortable by design or by nature. Carla, Indiana, good morning to you. Carla said, keeping up with the Joneses. Yeah, exactly. And some people are not even keeping up with anybody else. They just want things. Shiny object syndrome is what we call it. And everybody falls victim to it from time and again. Carla got the #1 gifted badge. Congrats. Brad said, Brad got the #2 gifted badge. Shout out to Brad. Joey said, our society is too consumer driven. Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing, Joey. The reason why we have a strong economy is because people are always buying stuff. That's what makes the economy go. The economy is just the amount of transactions. G Black, good morning. Thank you for the gifts. The economy is all about transactions. If all of us just kept all our money and nobody spent anything, that would be called a depression or a recession. Recession or depression. The strength of the economy, folks, is just about how much money is circulating. When the money stops flowing, we get a recession or depression. It's not that there's no money. It's just that nobody's spending any. So if we feel pessimistic about the future, we don't buy things. When we feel optimistic about the future, we spend everything that we got because we feel like we're going to make it back. So it's good that we have a consumer-driven society, because that's what makes us have a very strong economy. Because I go and buy something from the Louis Vuitton store. The people at the Louis Vuitton store make money. They go to the grocery store and buy bread. The guy at the bread store who sold you the bread, he has money. Now he goes and buys some toys for his kids. Now his kids feel good and they grow up, and then they go on YouTube and they start watching me and they like my stuff, and then they go buy some of my books. So the money continues to circulate when everybody is positive and optimistic. But if I don't feel good, I might not go buy anything from Louis Vuitton, even though I can afford it, because I'm not sure I'm going to have money next month. So I might not buy anything. So that leads to a depression and a slowdown in the economy. So we actually want there to be a consumer-driven economy, because that means all of us feel optimistic about our future prospects of earning money. Therefore, we don't have a problem spending money today. And the only way any of you can earn money is if other people are spending money. So we want people to buy stuff. It's not a bad thing that people are consumers. We need consumers, because if you're a salesperson, if nobody's consuming, you have no business. I need people to be consumers. I'm a salesperson. I want people to buy stuff, because if nobody's buying anything, I can't make money. And if people are buying stuff and I make money, guess what I do with the money? I go buy stuff. Doesn't mean I spend all the money, but I go buy things. So this is a good thing, not a bad thing. Michelle said, I say this to my friends all the time: generational wealth is not created by spending and spending. No, absolutely not. It's created by, you got to have the right system, a right process set up. And this usually is a legal process, because there are things that need to be done when you are long gone. So again, there are people who write books about this stuff. So again, nothing that I'm telling you all is financial advice. Speak to a financial advisor. There are people who do a lot of detail on these things, setting up family trusts, etc., things like that, where the money is controlled. And there are certain things that your heirs cannot do with the money, even if they want to, because it's legally designed that they can't do it. And if you don't do this, then this is how your money can get blown. Even though you set people up with a lot of money, they'll blow it. I just told y'all, 3 generations usually finances get blown. Only 3 generations and $1 billion can be lost. And there are examples of this. Julie P., good morning to you. Racer1426, good morning. Marky Man says, shop at thrift stores. I ain't shopping no thrift store. You can shop at whatever store you want. Shop at the Gucci store if you want. Just make sure you're making enough money to afford the Gucci store. Nothing wrong with shopping for high-end things if that's what you want. You want to drive what's a high-end car? You want to drive a Ferrari? Get a Ferrari. Just make sure your income matches what you want. There's nothing wrong with wanting nice things. And nice things usually are worth what they cost. In my experience, the more expensive stuff is usually worth it. When it comes to clothing, for example, you buy cheap clothes, your clothes fall apart. You buy more expensive clothes, they last longer, in my experience. So there's nothing wrong with buying more expensive stuff that may happen to be designer things. Designer things usually are high quality. In my experience, I've seen that. So these high quality fashion brands you see, or high priced fashion brands, usually their stuff is actually very high quality stuff. It doesn't fall apart. You buy cheap shit, it falls apart. Actually, I've noticed that with everything. Even toys for your kids. You buy cheap toys for your kids off $10 off Amazon, some cheap shit is going to fall apart in a week. That's how it works. And then you got to buy it again. Carla said, if you depend on the government, you don't have freedom and liberty. No, you will not have any. Marky said, don't buy new cars. Again, if you want to buy a new car, but I understand what you're saying, Marky, because a new car loses its value as soon as you drive it off the lot. I get your point. Belinda said, what about McDonald's? What about them? Michelle said, this is going to happen in a lot of administration work, including healthcare. Oh, absolutely. Anything that's administrative, because anything that's administrative, a computer can be taught how to do it. So a person sitting at the front desk at a hospital, again, they might keep their job because of the human touch, but you might not. That's the thing. Anything that's process driven is going to be replaced by a computer. The thing is, again, all of you just need to learn how to use the computers so that you can have the computers working for you and you can keep making money. You just don't want to be in a race against technology, because no human is fast enough to win that race. Carl said they take up less space. Yes, that's exactly. Michelle said it's more efficient. People really need to think about how secure their job is. Well, it's not. No job is secure. Any of you has a job, your job is not secure. There are very few secure jobs. Actually, I'm trying to think of a job that's secure. Can anybody name a job that's secure? There aren't any. Even if you play in the NBA or the NFL, your job's not secure, because as soon as you get old, you get replaced. You get injured, you get replaced. If you don't play well, you get replaced. All right. No job is secure. Ban Thierry said, how will the ticket seller determine the age of people? Why does it matter? Why does age matter? You mean like a kid's ticket or something like that? Again, there's going to be one engineer watching. So if they see 3 adults walk in and then they buy 2 kids tickets, then the engineer and the system will notice that, hey, these people look like adults, but they bought a kids ticket. There's a little alarm going to go off, and then the security is going to come down there and check you. So there will still be some humans involved just to make sure. I'm just giving you a raw example, but that's exactly how it's going to work. Carlos said they already have automated floor sweepers for grocery stores. I haven't seen that, but I believe it. Joey said, more time goes, more similarities there are to the documentary Confessions of a Time Traveler. I never heard of that. What's it about? Ross said they have robots serving food at restaurants. Oh, absolutely. I believe you. It hasn't reached all of America yet, but eventually it will be everywhere. So all these things you all are saying, I know it's happening. It's just they do it in a small pocket first as a test. Then they go to a few more places. Then they do it everywhere. That's how it works. Luca Dad said, wouldn't the movie theater not have customers if none of us have jobs? Theoretically, Luca Dad, the thing is, the movie theater is entertainment, and people will spend money on entertainment no matter what. People can be broke and they will find money for entertainment. Do you find this to be true? It's very true. Now, what is not going to happen is you ain't going to see people at the library when everybody's broke, because nobody goes for information when they ain't got money, but people will find money for entertainment. Look at that. I said what you were saying, but if all of our jobs disappear, wouldn't demand also? Yes, if all jobs disappear, it's not going to be all jobs. It's going to be a lot of jobs. And what I'm saying is you just want to be part of that 1%, because the 1% is going to have money. They'll spend money. The 1% will still spend money. It's just a matter of can you put yourself in line and collect some of that money? Carlos says some customer service phone calls are already computerized. Oh, yeah, they are. They're getting better at it. Here's what's happening is they're getting better at computerized calls to where it sounds more human. Right now, if you get on a call and you're talking to a computer, you know it's a computer. 15 years from now, you're going to get on a customer service call and you're going to be talking to a computer and you won't know that it's a computer. It's going to sound like a human. That's what's coming. Right now, you can tell when it's a computer. But 15 years from now, you won't be able to tell. Max said, what about welding? Now, I don't know the welding industry well enough to talk about it in detail, but Mac, anything that is a process that happens over and over and over again, and there's a system to doing it, a really smart engineer or coder, are they the same thing, engineers and coders? They're going to create a code that can do whatever a welder does. Like the job my dad worked at for 30 years, that job will not exist in 2050. Some computer will be doing the job that my dad did for all those years. My dad worked in what was basically a factory. He worked with his hands all day. Computers will do that because they're more consistent and actually more accurate than human beings. Somebody said a guy missed his flight because of Waymo. Hey, maybe he did. Not because of Waymo. He probably just got on the car too late. But I get what you're saying. Jackson's dad said Nikola is the truck driver replacement. I never heard of it, but whatever that is, I'm pretty sure you're right. There's a whole system for anything that happens over and over and over again, folks. Just think about it. If you do a job where you do the same stuff over and over and over again, there is a computer coming to take your spot. Outlaw said that's a damn robot. Elon Musty and that Agent Orange. Yeah, I remember somebody called him Elon Musty the other day. That was funny. I never heard anybody say that. The Start says, so Elon, eventually AI will replace even you. Yes. I will allow AI to replace me. This is what I'm saying to all of you. See, some of you, depending on the kind of line of work you had, the line of work that you're in, AI is going to kick you out and replace you. AI is not going to kick me out. I'm going to have AI replace me on purpose. I'm going to do it on purpose so that it's done and add more value to the world, make money from all that value. I duplicate my piece. If I can have another one of me running around doing the things that I want, but I don't have the time to do, then I can just create more value. I still make the money because I got 2 me's working. So now I can basically double my income. So the whole point is, folks, you want to get ahead of the curve and start using this stuff rather than have the stuff use you. That's the idea. And yes, as soon as it's possible to get an AI bot for myself, I'm getting an AI bot. And I've heard people told me about this. I was at a business conference a couple of weeks ago, and people were telling me that other folks who I've heard of, they have started testing these bots where you can get on a Zoom call with a bot of some business coach, and you can ask him a question, and he answers the question, and it seems like you're talking to actually him because it looks like him, it moves like him, it speaks like him, and it has all of his knowledge downloaded because this is the reason why you create content. So those of you who don't know where ChatGPT came from, all they did was basically download all of the information on the internet and they put it into a bot, and the bot talks as if it's a human. That's what ChatGPT is. So imagine if there was a Dre GPT or a Mike GPT or a Lisa GPT. Basically takes all the knowledge that you've put out into the world, downloads it into a system, and then if somebody asks it a question, all it does is go through its database of all the things it knows, and then it answers the question. It quote unquote knows. Now, where does it get its knowledge from? Again, from you. So those of you who are out there creating content and you have years of backlogs like I do, you can basically train the system on what you know to where if somebody asks you a question, you can just answer the question because you've already answered that question in the past. So if I basically took every coaching call I've ever done on Zoom, and I got thousands of them, maybe not thousands, let's say hundreds of coaching calls I've done on Zoom, and I insert them into a system, a GPT system, and somebody gets on the call and asks a question about any question I've ever been asked before. And the only way it would stump it is if you answer the question that's never been asked. But almost every question I get from a coaching client, I've answered the question before. All I have to do is have the system go through it and find the answer. And the faster and more smooth that system is, the better it's going to be. So Glenn said, what about diesel mechanics? I don't know anything about their jobs, but again, look at the frame that I gave you. You'll be able to answer the question. Buzzle said, why will anyone need you if there are no jobs? Well, there'll still be humans making money. That depends on which jobs. Again, some jobs are going to take longer than others to be replaceable. But again, there's going to be the 1% who have money, and there's going to be 99% who don't have money. So people will still need things. It's just not going to be a middle class. And the government is going to be giving people money. So they'll still find ways to spend it. Carlos said, we're headed towards the Terminator. Maybe. Laugh District said, what kind of world you think we're going to be living in where you control the robot? It's just working. Well, it won't be as much work because I control the robot. Let's say I could program a robot to do this 2 hours of live streaming, and I could be doing something else while this robot is doing all this work. So it might be work, but it might be 5 minutes of work rather than 2 hours of work. Is that a difference? Of course it is. Relight said, bedside manner is subjective to stress level of doctors. Yes, it is. The thing is, what I meant when I said the bedside manner is that there will still be a faction of humans who would rather deal with a human than a robot. And they're going to request a human. This is the reason why Whole Foods still has 2 people working the checkout line at the grocery store, as opposed to just making it all self-checkout. Because there are some humans who don't want to do self-checkout, and they're willing to stand in line to have a human do it. I'm not one of those people, but there are a lot of people who would rather have the human do the checkout. So there's always going to be at least 1 or 2 humans walking around in every place. The thing is, it used to be 30 humans. In the future, it's going to be like 5. So that means 25 people ain't going to have a job. That's what I'm saying. So there will always be some human involvement because you got to have human involvement. You go to Walgreens, you can self-check out your own stuff at Walgreens, but they got to have a human walking around because there's always some dummy who doesn't know how to use the self-checkout. There's somebody who's trying to find toothpaste and they don't know what aisle it is. Again, there's eventually robots will be able to do this stuff. But for now, they got to have a human in there just to make sure it's not crazy. There's a lot of humans, especially us in this world now. Many of us grew up in an era where there were no robots. Some people are still alive who didn't grow up with the phones. So there's still a whole wave of humanity that we have to get through before it can be completely robotized. That's like people who were born from like 2010 on, because their whole lives are computers. So any of you has a kid who's 15 or under, by the time they get to your age, they're going to be completely okay with everything being a robot and not even talking to a human to do anything. Now, again, that's going to take some time because, again, we gotta wash out this whole wave of humans who expect to deal with humans, including myself. Right? So this is all, it's going to take time, but this is happening, folks, and it's happening quickly. That's the whole point. Sheila said, when you go to the doctor, you got to check yourself in on a computer. I don't really go to doctor's offices, so I believe you. I'll take your word for it. The shipping strike was caused because they were fighting automation. Yes, exactly. And the thing is, they're not going to win. Unfortunately, they're not going to win. Gail R. said, a lot of doctors are retiring because of the technology stuff. Yeah, they should learn how to use it. They can make money off of it. Empress said, I don't trust Elon Musk. All right, that's fine. You don't have to. Tesla has homes that cost $10K. Yeah, so they are helping costs go down. So that's one thing that's actually good about the technology is that the cost will go down because there's not so much human involvement, so they can do things for cheaper. So again, this is the reason why you want to get on the side of this wave so you can actually make money off of it. Tesla's making money off of AI. They're not worried about being replaced by it. They're using AI. So again, all of you want to just get to where you're using it. That's it, folks. Hilda said the quality of homes is seriously less. I believe that. And architecture has gotten worse. People used to create beautiful architecture. If you see homes that were built in the 50s and 60s that still stand where any of you live, you see the architecture was exquisite. Look at the houses that get built now. They're just basically squares, boxes. People are not putting any thought into it. Scene said, what about mental health counseling? That can be done by a computer. But again, as I just said, there are some humans who want to deal with a human, and they want to deal with a human. They don't want to deal with a computer. So there will still be counselors, social workers, coaches, whatever, that people want to deal with a human. Even what's the word? Escorts. Eventually, they're going to be AI escorts. The next wave happening on the internet is going to be AI OnlyFans. And any of you can get in that business. Any of you want a business idea, you can start right now. I'll give you one for free. All you got to do is go learn how to use AI to create images and videos. Then you can create an AI girl, and then just make all the pictures and videos be the same girl with the same body shape, same body type, all of that, and get her popular on Instagram or TikTok or X, and then create OnlyFans for that girl. And then you just control her OnlyFans. And you can make money off an AI girl on OnlyFans, and you control the whole thing, and nobody even knows who you are because they're all in love with the AI girl. That's happening right now. That's already happening, by the way. Go on Instagram, you're going to see a whole bunch of pictures of girls with their asses out and all that. Half of those girls are not real people. They're AI girls. And the pictures are so good that sometimes you can't tell. You can usually tell the eyes are the hardest one to get. They can't really capture the soul of a human with the eyes on AI. But the rest of the body looks like that's a girl with a nice body. And the way women have been altering their bodies these days, you can't tell the difference. A lot of times you can't tell the difference. Carl said, what's the first law of economics? Supply and demand. When someone demands, there will be a supply and demand. For example, what I just said. Why do you think so many people are out there selling some form of sex these days? Because there are a bunch of people who are willing to pay for it. So the first law of economics is supply and demand. Second law of economics is there's no such thing as a free lunch. Tessie said houses are going down in Texas. Well, that's good for most people. Empress says some people are taking advantage. Some are taking advantage of people. Well, yes, they are. That's how humanity works. That's just how it works. Well, let's see. Red said you can't act as if it's so easy just to get to the 1%. Okay, I'm not acting, and I didn't say it was easy. I said it's doable and that you should aim for it. I never mentioned the word easy. What's easy is to do nothing and end up in the 99%. That's what's easy. So yes, you can get into the top 1%, and you should aim to get in the top 1%. I gave you all the frame that it takes $400,000 to help some of you, depending on where you're at right now, and understand you're not that far away. All right, a lot of people think that the top 1% means you got to be earning $50 million. It's not that much money. It's $400,000 gets you in the top 1%. And I already told you as well, $250,000 will put you in a comfortable space. You make $250,000 a year, you will be very comfortable, and you can pretty much do whatever you want to do in America if you're earning $250K a year, or your household earns $250K a year. Yin Yang said, I'm depressed now. Well, it depends. Reg said, everyone doesn't have the opportunities, resources, and connections that some in the 1% have. Yes, that is true, but that's why you want to become part of the 1%. Opportunities, resources. I really got to go to the bathroom. I want to get to the rest of the comments. Can y'all wait like 2 minutes while I go to the bathroom and I'll come back? Is that okay? We're going to try this. I haven't done this before. Usually I just hold it until I'm done, but I want to answer the rest of these comments. So can y'all wait 2 minutes? I'm going to run to the restroom. It's right next to my office here. I'm going to the restroom. I'm going to come right back and I'm going to answer these questions. So let me go to the restroom. I really need to go. All right, I'm back. All right, most of you waited. I appreciate that. Thank you, everybody. It's the first time I ever tried that. So in the future, I think I'm gonna do that. I'll just go to the bathroom holding it because I feel like a 3-year-old trying to hold it in. All right, thank you for waiting, those who waited. So Reg, answering your question, you said everyone doesn't have opportunities, resources, and connections that some and the 1% have. What's the significance of that comment, Reg? What does that have to do with your ability to get into the top 1%? You don't need. What resources would you need to join the top 1%? If you want to earn $400,000 a year, all you need is a good idea, and you need the right execution and the right system to make it work. That's what you need to get to the 400K level. You don't necessarily have to have any connections. You don't need any connections. That sounds good. I know people say that all the time. You don't need connections to make $400,000. Resources? What resources? Again, what do you need to do that? You don't need a resource. You can start a business at home with no money. Now, our parents couldn't start a business at home with no money. We can start a business at home with no money through the internet. And opportunities, yes, everyone has the opportunities. What opportunity do you not have? Like just using you as an example, Reg. What opportunities do you not have? Bill Green said, number one cause of financial issues in marriages is couples living beyond their means. Okay. I didn't go that deep into the data, but I do know the number one issue that couples have when they break up is money, or even if they stay together, is money. Now, why the issue is money is what Bill is saying. He's saying it's couples living beyond their means. I can see that happens. Carla said, will you put these 10 points in the description or notes on YouTube? Yes, Carla, what I will do is refer you to the episode on my podcast where I actually explain this, because that's where this came from. Actually, I did it on TikTok first in like September. And then I did it on my masterclass maybe in October or November. And then when I mentioned it the other day, people said, oh, I want to hear this. So then I did it again. So you can find this on, if you go to the Work on Your Game masterclass, the episodes were number 3143, 3144, 3145, and 3146. Everything I've given to you all today, I broke this down into a 4-part series on my masterclass that took about 2 hours. So all 4 episodes took 2 hours total. As you can see it right here, episode 3143, there will be no middle class. Y'all see that? And it says part 1 of 4. So this is a 4-part series. The first episode came out on December 20th. So it was the 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, just 2 months ago. That's when this came out on my masterclass. My show is called Work on Your Game. Y'all can find this on Apple or Spotify. And these episodes are also on YouTube. So if you want to watch the video, you can see it on video. But if you just want to listen to my voice and you don't need to see me, you don't need to see me. I'm sitting there just like this. So if you don't want to look at it, you can just listen to it on audio. So any of you who has Spotify or Apple Podcasts, look it up. Episode number 3143 is where I started doing this. And in case any of you didn't know, this show right here, this comes out every single day for free. And my episodes are usually somewhere around 20 to 25 minutes. It's just me. I don't interview anybody. It's just me talking for about 20 to 25 minutes every single day for free. It's called Work on Your Game. So if y'all didn't know about that, now you know. So yes, Carla, that's your answer. All the points is actually 12 points. So it's 12 points. So each of those 4-part series is 3 points in each episode. So I did this, everything I just told you all, I did it in more detail on my podcast. Once that said, Luca Dad said, Lincoln, Nebraska represent. Shout out to Nebraska. Sophie said, do you think we will really get refunds? Well, it's not actually really a refund. Is it a refund? I don't know what they would call it. Do I think we're going to get it? I think now that they put it out there that they're probably going to do it. But I will be okay if they don't do it. That's what I'm saying. Do I think we're going to get it? I think they shouldn't have said anything if they weren't going to do it, because now people are going to be wanting it. Red said Elon and Trump are taking away those protections. No, I don't think so. That's what has been said about them. But what we need to find out is anything that they remove, Elon and Trump, what are they replacing it with? Or was it already redundant, meaning that we already had it? We just didn't need more than one of it. So we got to find out what they decide to replace things with before we say that they just remove things. So that's the part that we don't know yet. So then their enemies are using that against them. Victoria said people are afraid of the change. They're fine with the status quo and just complain about it. Well, yes, not all, but many human beings are afraid of change because, again, the status quo and the default setting is the natural human. That's a natural human condition. Natural human state is to keep things as they are. And most human beings, actually all human beings, are wired to do as little as possible. We're wired to conserve energy and not do anything. That goes back to the caveman days, and we would only have to run away from the saber-tooth tiger or the enemy caveman. But those who advance and move forward in life go against their natural human instinct to do nothing, and they do something. So, Victoria, you're right that a lot of people are afraid of change because change requires not only the change that happens around you, but usually you have to respond to the change. It means you have to do something. Most people don't want to do anything. So asking people to do something, you're already eliminating 80% of the population because most people ain't going to do anything. Ryan said they have you all so confused and backwards. Who's they and what are you talking about? Troy said, this is the most real thing I've listened to in a long while. Well, I'm glad you found me, Troy. Come back because I do these lives every day. Well, Monday through Friday at least. Let me take a couple more comments, and I just lost my spot. When I get to the bottom of the comments, then it refreshes, and then I got to go find where I was. Where was I? I'm trying to catch everybody's comment here, so at least the ones that I can find. All right, here we go. So Red said the middle class is what keeps this country stable. Yes, for now. Red, you're correct. For now, the middle class does most of the buying, and the middle class does most of the work. But when we have a barbell society, it's going to change. All the work's going to be being done by the peasants and the lower class, because that's where all the middle class people are going to get pushed to if they don't do something different. Ryan said to say the Democratic Party means that we're the boss is totally incorrect. What do you mean by that? To say the Democratic Party means that we're the boss, that sentence is not grammatically correct, Ryan. I don't know what you mean by that. Ryan also asked, have you ever said the Pledge of Allegiance? Yes. When I was in elementary school, we said it every day at the beginning of school. Julie said, you said someone's comfort doesn't define rich. Isn't that comfort level equivalent? Again, it depends on the person. You can't tell somebody else that they're comfortable. So I could be making $1 million a day. Doesn't mean that I'm comfortable. What am I doing to make that $1 million? Might not be very comfortable for me. So you can't really tell somebody else that they're comfortable. Comfort is a subjective term. I could be comfortable today and not comfortable tomorrow. All right, so Carl guy answered that question about economics. Reginald Abernathy. To all women, ask Republicans why they don't want women to vote. Look at the SAVE Act. I think what a lot of people are proposing when it comes to voting is just have households vote. So if two people are married, then they get one vote. And then not having people who are not married have any votes. Or if you have more kids, you get more votes. It's an interesting proposal. I don't think it's going to happen in our lifetimes. Actually, I shouldn't even say that. Maybe not in the next 10 years, but it could happen. There will be an uprising against it, but it could happen. Ryan said, you are absolutely backwards to say Democratic Party means we're the boss. That doesn't make any sense. I said we have a democratic process, not a Democratic Party. Our voting process is democratic, meaning the people who are elected officials, and not everybody's elected. Elon, for example, is not elected. The democratic process means the people who we elect work for us, because if they don't do the job we want them to do, the next time there's an election, we can vote them out. So we are the boss in that sense. Now, once they get voted in, yes, they do what they want to do because we voted them in. Now, hopefully the social contract is we voted you in because you campaigned to do ABC. So you better do ABC. If you don't do ABC, then the next election, we're going to vote you out. So that's pretty much how it works. And if we can't vote you out, we'll vote out the people who are supporting you. So you can't do the stuff that you're doing that you're not supposed to be doing because we don't want you to do it. So, for example, people voted in Trump. Trump said he's going to do ABC. Now Trump is doing ABC. If people don't like what Trump is doing as a whole, the country as a whole doesn't like what Trump is doing, they can't vote him out because he has one more term and he's done. But what they can do is at the midterm elections in 2026 is vote out all the Republicans in Congress. So where it's a Democrat-controlled Congress. And now Donald Trump can't really move forward with anything he wants to do because they're going to block everything he tries. So you still have mechanisms to go against somebody, even if they're still in power. So it just depends on how the people feel. And again, it's the people as a whole, not one individual person. Let's see. Matt said, another person who thinks we should exploit workers. Well, Matt, workers are already getting exploited. Think about it, Matt. If you work at, what's a place somebody could work? If you work at, let's say McDonald's, are you working at McDonald's and you make $12 an hour? Why is McDonald's willing to pay you $12 an hour? Why are they willing to pay $12 for every hour that you work? Just ask yourself that question. I'll tell you the answer. The reason why, let's say I own the McDonald's, right? Let's say I'm a franchisee of McDonald's and I got you working for me for $12 an hour. The reason why I'm willing to give you $12 for every hour of your work is because I'm making more than $12 for every hour that you work. Your production is worth more than $12. I'm just giving you 12 and I'm keeping the difference. That's the reason why I'm willing to pay you. So you're already getting exploited. Everybody understand? If you have a job, you are already getting exploited. If you want to call it exploitation, this is really not, but it's a fair deal because you accepted it. But if you work at a job, the only reason your boss is willing to pay you what they pay you is because they earn more off of your effort than what they had to give to you. If what they're giving you is more than what they're earning off your effort, then you get fired because you're costing them money. This is the way it works. This is the way it works when you're employed, period. So people say you're trying to exploit workers. Every worker is being exploited. If you have a job, you are being exploited definitionally by just simple mathematics. The amount of money you're producing is more than the amount that you get. You are not getting 100% of your production. And you shouldn't get 100% of your production because you're not the one who set up the system. The person who set up the system is an entrepreneur who by definition took on greater than normal financial risk and put themselves out there in order to create this opportunity. You didn't take on any risk in taking the job. That's the reason why you don't get paid for 100% of your production because you didn't take on the risk. The person who takes on the risk gets to participate in the upside. And if the business falters, they are responsible for the downside. You're not responsible for either one. So of course you get exploited. This is the way business works. If you just logically understand that, then this is not, you can't say that it's a negative thing. This is just the way that it works. If any of you wants to have 100% of the upside, then you got to participate in the downside, which means you have to take on financial risk in the process. Having a job is not a financial risk. not in that sense, the way I'm defining it. And that's the way business works. Gail said it was Andrew Yang. Yeah, it was him. He was the guy talking about the universal income. What sounds interesting, how they can make it work, I don't know. I don't think the government was ready for that, which is why Yang kind of got rejected when he came out with that. It sounded good, but the government's not ready for that. The people are not ready for it either. So, Gene, good morning to you. They just said, no, just low income, but no more need to work. Well, they will still have to work because the government's going to tell you got to do something if you want us to keep paying for you. The government will put you to work. No reason to say equal means work as hard as it takes to be where you want to be. It is not what someone else, I don't know what your point got cut off there. Victoria said, people don't realize the Jones are only in their own heads. Sometimes the Jones lives right next to you. Sometimes they live right next door to you. Red said, and if you destroy the middle class, you already answered that one. Sabrina said, wait, are you a lawyer? Well, there's the question of the day. Every day somebody asks me if I'm a lawyer. I am not a lawyer. I do not have a law degree. I just play a lawyer on TikTok. And that's a joke. I don't play a lawyer. But by the way, speaking of lawyers, I did a whole episode on my podcast, also known as a masterclass, how to be a lawyer on the internet. And I'm not joking. Look, if y'all think I'm joking, I actually did this, how to be a lawyer on the internet. And the reason why I did this series is a 2-part series. The reason why I did this series is because ever since I've been doing these live streams on these platforms, the way that I'm doing them, every day, somebody comes in the comments and asks me if I'm a lawyer, probably because I'm dressed a little bit like a lawyer and I tend to talk about things in what I believe is a rational and objective way. So people say, hey, you sound like a lawyer, you look like a lawyer, are you a lawyer? So the answer is no, I'm not a lawyer. But based on my presentation, the way I talk, sometimes people think that I am. So Sabrina, there's the answer to your question. And again, that's episode number. If you want to hear me explain it, that is episode number. Where was I? I lost my spot. Oh, episode number 3201 of my podcast. 3,201. That's how long we've been doing this show. Every single day, by the way. Patty Cakes said, I recently started following and I love your take. Keep teaching. Thank you, Patty Cakes. I appreciate it. Gene said he wasn't talking about. Yes. Gene was correcting my guy who keeps asking about the Democrats and the Pledge of Allegiance. No reason said if you have to buy using credit cards, you need to stop using other people's money. Technically, I get what you're saying. That's kind of what Susie Orman or Dave Ramsey would tell you. But there are times when it makes sense to use a credit card. There's times when it makes sense to use credit. If you are, for example, when you're in business, you may have a line of credit that you use so that you can pay for marketing for your company. And that marketing allows you to make more revenue that allows you to expand the business. So there are times where using credit is actually a good thing and using credit can be helpful. Now, you just can't be reckless with the credit because then you can get in trouble. But credit in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing to use. Rich, no, Luca Dad said the rich guy, poor guy boot thing. I don't know what you're talking about. Let's see. So I see many of you mentioning jobs. I don't remember what I was talking about when I said that. You know how it goes that being an actor or actress is a secure job. Not really. No, it's not. How many actors or actresses can you name off the top of your head? And for every one you can name, there are 100 who you never heard of. The reason why, because they haven't gotten a big break. They're not making that much money. They're barely making ends meet. They probably not even making $100,000 a year. And in between jobs, they're working at Starbucks and Trader Joe's. So no, being an actor or actress is not a secure job. It's a secure job when you're famous. It's a secure job for George Clooney and Sandra Bullock and Jennifer Aniston. It's not a secure job for Mr. Nobody actor who just did a commercial for a Colgate toothpaste and he hasn't had a job in 6 months. Is it a secure job for him? Absolutely not. So no, it is not a secure job. And again, people think that because you're looking at the famous people. Every famous person you know, there's 100 people who ain't famous trying to do the same thing. Victoria said, why do people get so angry at the Sam Waltons of the world? Well, human nature. Because most people don't think they're capable of reaching his level. So instead of asking themselves, how can I do what he did? They just get mad at the fact that he did it. Cam in K-Town says, always have a contingency plan for life changes. Yes, that's a good idea. Tessie said, I work in a medical field. I feel my job is secure. People will always get sick. The hospitals will always be open. Technically, you're correct, Tessie. The problem is, not even the problem, but the challenge to what you're saying is that technology is more accurate and more consistent than a human being. Now, the challenge to that challenge is that sometimes technology can still get it wrong, and a human, just off of human instinct and human nature, can sense things that a computer cannot. That's where your argument will be correct. At the same time, there's a bunch of people who work in your field who are going to be replaced by the fact that technology can do things that a lot of human beings are doing not as efficiently as the technology can. So it's still going to come for some jobs. And at the same time, as I've already mentioned, Tessie, I don't know if you were here when I said it, there are still always going to be, not always, but at least for the next 30 years, there will always be human beings who prefer to deal with an actual human rather than dealing with a computer or software. So in that sense, you're right that you will have a job because there's somebody who wants the human. The thing is, Tessie, as technology comes to challenge in your industry, only the best people will stay and the average and below average will be removed. So it depends on how good you are. If you're actually good at your job relative to your peers, then you will have a job. But if you're not that good, you will be replaced. So it depends on you. So Gene said, I was a little shocked at a robot skimming sheetrock, but they can do it. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. Michelle said, there's a computer at McDonald's that asks if you're going to use your app sounds just like a human. Yeah, that's what it is. This is where everything is going. Again, Nat G said, what is the best alternative? I already told you, become rich. Again, the top 1% of income in America is $400,000, not 20 million, 400,000. That's not that much money. If you make 50 grand a year, that's 8 times what you make. If you make 100 grand a year, that's 4 times what you make. If you make 300 grand a year, it's a 33% increase. Gene said, could you clone me as well? If I can learn how to clone human beings, I'm going to have more money than Elon Musk. So if once I develop the ability to do it, J.D., yes, I will clone you and I will charge you for it. Carla said, I don't think the world can handle 2 of me. Well, we might get a chance to find out, Carla. We might. Erica said, we use one at my work and it takes notes at our meetings and then it sends it out with a to-do list. Yeah, see, that's what's happening. We can already create AI clones of ourselves. Yeah, I know, but they're not always that good and they're not so universally accessible for everybody so easily and at a, financially efficient price yet. At least not for what I want. This will take a lot because it takes a lot of training. That the LLM part costs more. Gunter said, where are teachers? You mean in terms of this conversation? That's a really good question. I think teachers they're going to be threatened too. The people are coming for those jobs as well. First of all, Elon and Trump are already coming for the Department of Education, period, right now. But in the bigger picture, teachers are challenged because teachers are generally teaching things that come from a academic curriculum. And a curriculum is nothing but a system of information. And anything that is systematized and is information that can easily be kind of downloaded and understood, why would you have a human do it when a computer can do it better? Now, the trade-off, Gunter fam, is that, again, the human touch, that what we call bedside manner in the medical industry, that human touch thing is still a big deal. And for the next 30 years, there's still going to be plenty of humans alive who want to deal with a human regardless of the availability of technology. This is where any job that is done by a human, if you are really good with your people skills, you will be able to compete against the computers and kind of stave them off for a while. But this will not last forever, because the next wave of people, again, any of you have a kid who's 15 years or under, 15 years or younger, they are completely okay with only dealing with computers and not dealing with humans at all. Now, if you're over, especially those of you who are over the age of 40, you grew up in an era where you actually only dealt with people. There were no computers to deal with. So those people are still alive. So for the next 30 at least years, there will always be a demand for human beings on some level, but it's going to become less and less as more of us pass away and more of them, your kids, they are growing up and more people are growing up to live this way, where they're just used to dealing with computers all the time. They don't need a human. And they're completely okay with it. It doesn't feel weird to them. It feels weird to you if you're 50 and you go in a place and there are no humans to deal with and you do everything by computer. It feels weird, even if you can do it. But if you're 15, it feels normal. So imagine when they're 50. What's the world going to look like? That's the point that I'm making. Jane said, keep in mind what you knew then will be different now. Google is great, but not exclusive. Yes, that's true. And in the future, things will be different. Carla said, wow, am I going to be washed out? You might be. You might be. Cam said it will evolve just like computers and cell phones. There will be a need to maintain robots. Yes, those are the people who are going to be making money. People who know how to run these things will make money. Pamela, thank you for the gift. The lightning bolts. It's people who don't know how to run them and are trying to run against them are going to lose. No human who's listening to me right now is going to beat technology. That's my point. Don't try to race technology. You won't win. Troy said that is scary how easy it can be. Oh, Troy, you're going to see it. Depending on how old you are, Troy, just stay alive till 2050. Everything I'm telling you is going to happen. Actually, what I'm saying here today, folks, is an underestimation of what's going to happen. More is going to happen than what I'm even saying. I'm underestimating because I'm not even a futurist or a technologist. I'm just telling you what I understand just based on my objective, logical reasoning. But somebody who's in technology, they'll be able to explain this even better than I am. Troy said, thoughts about goal setting versus habit building. Listen to my masterclass called Work On Your Game. Find it on Apple or Spotify. I've done episodes on it. Erica, good morning to you. Yes, I did have to go to the bathroom. Thank you, everybody who waited for me to go to the bathroom. Carla said, anybody had a Jeopardy theme music going through their heads? Now, here's what I could do. Next time I take a bathroom break tomorrow, I won't need another one today, but tomorrow I could play some music. The thing is, on YouTube, if you play music, they give you not a copyright strike, but a warning that we can't monetize the video. So I want to monetize this video, so I can't play music. That's the issue with playing music. What I might do is I might just pull a video up on my phone of me talking and just play it while I'm at the bathroom. Maybe I'll do that next time. Let's see. Thank you, everybody, for getting me to 20K likes. Thank you, Carla, for encouraging the crowd. Someone said, mute us. Y'all can hear me when I was in the bathroom. This TikTok doesn't have it. There's no mic on this. There's no mic on this. I don't know how y'all can hear that. Maybe I should have just closed the door. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if y'all can hear that. I took this mic right here. I took this off. This mic is only connected to this phone over here. This mic I took off is connected to this. That's not TikTok. TikTok, I don't have a mic connected. It's just I'm talking straight through the speaker, but I have it standing up, so it sounds really clear because of that. The reason y'all could probably hear that is because the bathroom is right next to my office, and I kept the office door open while I was in the bathroom. I didn't close the bathroom door. So y'all probably didn't need all that detail, but that's probably why y'all could hear me. I'm sorry about that. I was thinking about that too. That's why I took the mic off. I said, make sure they can't hear me, so let me take the mic off. But there's no mic for TikTok. So next time I know I got to close that door so y'all can't hear that. I'll close both doors. If I close this door and the bathroom door, y'all won't hear me. So now we know. So you learn something new every day. Y'all can hear me? I didn't know y'all could hear that. All right. So next time I'll close both doors and we will eliminate that problem. All right. At least I was only peeing. All right. Bill said, can you recommend one of your books? I see they're all on Audible. Yes, I would suggest on Audible. If this is your first book of mine you're reading, you never listened to read anything that I wrote, get this one called Work on Your Game. If this is your first book of mine, get Work on Your Game. That one is my entire philosophy laid out. Let me see if it's even on Audible, because the publisher at one point, they told me they took it off Audible. Then I think they put it back on. It is on Audible right here. It's called Work on Your Game. So that book right there looks just like that on Audible. There it is. Work on Your Game. Then after you read that one, Bill, get the next one and the next one and the next one. Get all of them. Bill, just buy all my books at the same time. All right, and then just pick which one you want to listen to. That's what I would do. I had no idea y'all could hear that. Let me see. I lost my spot. I'm going to take the next wave of comments. All right, here we go. Deanne said, liberals adapt to dysfunctional past leadership is why I don't understand restructure. Okay. Let's see. Ryan said, you're good with money and accounting. What do you mean by that? What's your question? Carla said, yes, very rational and logical explanations of issues. Thank you. Ryan said, you must be familiar with fiat currency. I mentioned that earlier, Ryan. You might have came in the middle. Ryan was saying, oh no, I answered that already. Deja said actors can get blacklisted as well. Yeah, that's not even the thing. Actors can't even get on. That's the whole point. Tiffany said you drink a lot of water. LOL. Y'all can hear me. I didn't know y'all can hear me. I do drink a lot of water. For those who don't know my lifestyle, I wake up at 3:45 in the morning and I work out. So I either am running outside or I go to the boxing gym. Today I was running outside and I drink. I'm on my 4th liter of water. I'm already on liter. This is liter number 5 today. As you can see, I'm halfway done. So this will be my 5th liter of water for the day. I drink a lot of water. And if I sit anywhere for 2 hours, then I have to go to the bathroom. I never go 2 hours without going to the bathroom over the course of a day. This is the only time I do it, when I'm talking to y'all. Okay, so let me see. DNG said, ChatGPT does everything for me from writing emails to meal plans. ChatGPT is very good if you ask it the right questions. And ChatGPT teaches better than any teacher. Well, DNG, here's the thing. You got to ask it the right questions. You know how to ask it questions. That's why I can help you. But a lot of people don't know how to ask the right questions of AI, so therefore they get poor answers. Thank you, Carla. I appreciate you. Luca Dad said public domain music. Yeah, but then I won't like it. I'll find some way to entertain y'all in between next time I need to take a bathroom break. CC by Sierra said it was loud as shit. It was so loud, I believe you can mute on TikTok. I won't have to mute. I told you what I'm going to do next time. I'll just close the doors. Indiana homegirl, I'll just close the doors. All right, so Deja said, wish you had been around 40 years ago. I don't know about that, Deja. If I was around 40 years ago, you couldn't watch me on TikTok because there was no TikTok. I wouldn't have the same opportunities. Nothing that I do professionally could I have done 40 years ago. What was 40 years ago? 85? Yeah, 40 years ago, you couldn't start a business on the internet. You couldn't just publish your own books. Many of my books I published through my own company. I've done traditional publishing as well. There was no live streaming. Most of you, if we didn't live in the same town, you never would have met me. You wouldn't know who I was unless I happened to get on TV. If I had a TV or radio show, then it'd be a whole different situation. But if I was not on TV or radio, like I'm not now, and I just had my own independent stuff, most of you probably would never meet me. You would never know who I was. So there were advantages back then, but there's a lot of advantages these days too. So we gotta give credit on both ends. I wish we had YouTube back in the day. Yes. Well, I did have YouTube back in the day. I was on YouTube when it came out. I came out on YouTube in 2005. Now, all my content back then was basketball stuff, on the court basketball. I started talking about mindset stuff in 2010. And then between 2010 and 2015, I started talking a little bit more about like business stuff because I was doing it and a lot of athletes were asking. And then in 2015, I stopped playing basketball and I started talking about personal and professional development. And then around 2020, I started talking more about business things and coaching, consulting, speaking, etc. And that's where I'm at today. So that was kind of like the progression from 2005 to now. And in the future, we'll see. Maybe in 2030, my AI bot will be doing all the talking. We'll see. Can't wait. So your content is very informative. Thank you. So I appreciate that. So everybody, I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. Tomorrow, because this one I told you I was going to do. I told you I was going to do this one again. So this is the second time I talked about this. Actually, it's the third time. I did it once on my podcast, I did it 6-7 months ago on this stream, and now I did it again on this stream, and maybe I'll do it again in 6 months. So maybe every 6 months I'll just do the same one all over again. Tomorrow, I think I'm going to talk about Kanye West. Tomorrow, I'm going to defend Kanye West. Would y'all like to hear me defend Kanye West? I think that's what I'm going to do tomorrow. I think that's the topic I have here. But disclaimer is that if anything happens in the news today that I find more interesting than defending Kanye West, then I might bump that off and talk about something else. So I might do Kanye tomorrow, but I might do something else. So it just depends on what happens in the news. I try to talk about a current event, like something that's happening right now. So I'll see what's happening. If something interesting happens, especially if it involves Donald Trump and Elon Musk, then I'll talk about it tomorrow. And the reason why is because if I talk about Donald Trump and Elon Musk, it draws a lot of attention. That's just what it is. You talk about Donald Trump, everybody has something to say about him. Everybody has an opinion. So they'll listen to my opinion if I talk about him. So I might talk about Trump. I don't know what I would say about him. But if I do decide, then I might do Trump tomorrow, or I might just defend Kanye West. So we'll see. Gene said, a pleasure listening to you. I'm 68, so it's nice to know there are people willing to engage. Yes, I'm very willing to engage. I've always done this. As long as I've been on the internet, even back to 2005, I always read my comments. I will engage with the commentators as long as people are not trolling and people are respectful. I always engage with the commentators. Even if you disagree with me, it's fine. And I like the engagement because for me, I create a lot of content. You can see I've written a lot of books. I have all these videos on YouTube. I have this podcast that comes out every day. I write a lot. The reason I'm able to create as much as I do and talk about as much as I talk about is not because I'm like sitting in the basement and these ideas just pop into my head. That's not how it works. What happens is my engagement with folks like you all gives me ideas. So when people say things and maybe their frame is off or they're asking the wrong question or they posit something that I know is not true, but I understand they just logically don't have the proper thought process about it, that gives me an idea. And then I go create content addressing that thing. So basically what I do, folks, is anytime I want to tell one person something, I say, well, why would I just only tell this one person when I could take the same answer that I need to give to this one person? Why don't I give that answer to 1,000 people? And then I create content. So not only does that one person get the answer that they needed, but other people get the answer too, because I've always theorized that if one person asks me a question, there's probably 1,000 other people who have the same question. Either they know they have the question or they don't even know they have the question. But when I create the content, they'll hear it and they'll say, damn, I was thinking about that too. Or damn, I never thought about that, but I'm glad you brought it up because now that makes me think differently. So that's always been my aim. Even when I was talking to basketball players back in the days, even when I started talking mindset, and even now when I talk business, I always realize that there's usually many people that have the same question and the same challenge, but they don't know me and they don't have a way of reaching me and letting me know. So when I read the comments and you all say things, even if it's something I disagree with and I see it, I say, okay, I understand why you're saying that, but let me explain to you why I look at it differently. And again, I'll make content around that. So even some of the things you all said today, I might get an idea and say, you know what, I'm glad you said that because I'm going to use that and go make the next thing. So you make some content and then people engage with your content. And then the engagement with the content is the seed for the next piece of content. And then what people say about that one is the seed for the next piece of content. So it actually serves itself. So I wish I could tell you I'm smart enough to just sit somewhere by myself and I just come up with 30,000 content ideas. I literally have 30,000 pieces of content on the internet. It's not because I came up with all these by myself. It's because I engage and read the comments. And then when people say stuff, even if they say something stupid, is an idea because now I can use that to go say the next thing. So when somebody said, yo, are you a lawyer? And I told you I'm not a lawyer, but I play a lawyer on the internet. Look at that. I went and made content actually talking about that very thing. I didn't come up with that on my own. I came up with that because of y'all comments. People keep asking me if I'm a lawyer. I said, all right, let me make some content about that. How can I make this make sense? And I did it. So that's how I work. That's generally my process. I would say about these days, when I first started, it was a little bit different. I had to come up with a lot of stuff by myself. But these days, 2025, I would say a good 60% of my content is not stuff that I just thought up by myself. 60% of the stuff that I create comes from things that I hear and see other people say. And I just have a unique angle on it and I put my own touch on it. And then it's not like I take somebody else's idea. What I do is take something that somebody says, I expand on it, answer it in my way. And then we get, again, how to be a lawyer on the internet. Nobody ever said that to me. They just asked me if I'm a lawyer. And I said, why do people keep thinking that I'm a lawyer? So now I just thought about it. And I'll tell you exactly what I said in that. I said, number one, wear a suit. Number two, you had to be articulate. Number 3, you have to understand things in detail and be able to explain it. Number 4, you got to be willing to answer questions even when people disagree with you. Number 5, you got to be very logical and objective. And number 6, you got to be right and know what the hell you're talking about. Because of that combination of things, people look at me and listen to me and they think that I'm a lawyer. That's where I came up with the content. So what I do is take one little thing that somebody says and I expand it into something bigger and I explain it, and then it makes sense. That's my superpower. That's what I do best. So I used to do that for basketball. Then I did it for mindset. Now I do it for business. And I also do it for current events, professional development, personal development, sales, mindset, motivation, et cetera, et cetera. So that pretty much explains what I do. So any of you didn't know, now you know. And no, I'm not a lawyer. I don't have a law degree. I do have a college degree, 4-year degree, a basic degree. But I'm not going back to school. I give school. That's why we got Work on Your Game University. That's what I do for a living. So let me see if anything else I had to address here. Yes, I appreciate that. Jeffrey said, explain someday the trials and tribulations you went through to reach your level of success. Jeffrey, I did one on that. I probably talked about that, and I appreciate the question. Maybe 3 months ago, I did a live stream where I was basically explaining myself and my background and where I come from and all that, because I know a lot of you find me through maybe you just ran into one of my ads, or you just found me randomly on YouTube, or you saw me on the For You page on TikTok, and you don't really know anything about me. You just hear me talking, but you don't know my background. I did a video on it. I did a live stream explaining this. This probably 3 or 4 months ago. And guess where the video is at? It's on YouTube. So go to my YouTube channel, and you'll see that video where I explain Dre Baldwin, who is Dre Baldwin, and all that. I got plenty of episodes of my show where I've done that too. Usually like once a year on my podcast, because I know I have new listeners. I'll do an episode just explaining myself, my background, who I am, where I'm from, etc. I do it like once a year because I know I always have new people coming into my world. Okay, so all that being said, folks, it is almost 10:30. I am hungry. I need to eat. I eat lunch early and I eat dinner early. So I'm about to go eat lunch. And then I got work to do here. And all of you got work to do too. So I'm not going to keep out here all day. I will see you all tomorrow. 8 o'clock a.m. Eastern is when I start my lives. 8 o'clock a.m. Eastern is when I do my lives. The replay to this, yes, it is on YouTube. I'm recording on YouTube right now. So shout out to everybody on YouTube. That's this camera over here. The replay will be on YouTube. Y'all want to watch it. Anything I've done in the past that I told you that I did, it's on YouTube. And if you're not following me on YouTube, follow me on YouTube. If you're not subscribed to or you're not following me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram. Instagram is just my name, @Dre Baldwin. And if you're on TikTok, you're probably following me on. So make sure you follow me on TikTok too. And that's that. I'm hungry. I appreciate everybody's time and attention here. I will see you tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern. We are out of here. Work on your game.